Chapter 389. Don't think that children don't know anything, okay? Naneo gave Su Nianhua a disdainful look. Even I know that Aunt Xiao Rou is living separately from you. It was really embarrassing to hear this from a child. Su Nianhua looked at him angrily. But there is no such thing as a divorce. Jingjing said that if you two get divorced, she will not live with either of you. Then where is she going? Su Nianhua could not help but raise his voice. See, you are still going to get divorced. Naneo looked at him calmly and his eyes became deeper. Su Nianhua was speechless. He had experienced what it was like to be tricked by a child over and over again. He had experienced it vividly from Naneo. No, really. Su Nianhua touched his forehead and explained patiently. At this moment, the stewardess was giving out lunch. Yi Huanyan woke up when she smelled the food. She looked at the two people with sleepy eyes. What are you talking about? Why are you so excited? Su Nianhua spread his hands. Your son insisted that I had divorced Xiao Rou and that we were discussing where Jingjing would go in the future. Hearing this, Yi Huanyan looked over Su Nianhua's shoulder and looked at her son. Naneo, if you want to play with Jingjing, why did you say yes when I asked you if you wanted to go to Paris with me? Because I feel that you are not very happy recently. Before Yi Huanyan could respond, Naneo glanced at the food in the stewardess's hand, jumped down from his seat and ran towards Chen Yin. He shouted as he ran, "Sister, I am eating here. Give me a steak." The annoying guy was gone, and the world was a lot quieter. Su Nianhua was curious about the reason for Yi Huanyan's unhappiness. He could not help but ask, Naneo said that you are not happy recently. What's wrong? Is there something on your mind? Yi Huanyan drank the juice the stewardess poured for her and took a deep breath. It's nothing. Just some trivial matters. I'll deal with them after the shooting. It won't take long. I used to think so too. A lot of things may not make a difference, but when things are piled up, when it is time to deal with them, I don't know where to start first. Like the matter with Ruru? Yi Huanyan changed the topic. How did you end up getting a divorce? Weren't you guys on good terms when you met on set? When she asked this question, Yi Huanyan forgot that Zhang Rou had not contacted her after that meeting. Su Nianhua frowned. After that day, she went back to her parents' home. I sent Jingjing the day before yesterday, and she met with me to talk. There wasn't much time, and she said something that I thought was very strange. The plane suddenly shook, and the juice on the table shook. The sweet and gentle voice of the air stewardess came from the radio, interrupting Su Nianhua. Dear passengers, our plane has just encountered turbulence, and it is now stable again. Don't worry, we are deeply sorry for the inconvenience. Please continue with your meal. Enjoy your meal. Yi Huanyan was wiping the table with a tissue. She asked, What did she say to you? Let me help you. Su Nianhua was stunned. He looked at Yi Huanyan wiping the table and frowned. Her tone unconsciously became a little hesitant. No, nothing. It was just strange words. The person in his memory also liked to wipe the table when the water spilled. She slowly took out a large stack of paper and spread it on the table. She could even continue the previous topic with the person next to her, as if she was not worried that the things on the table would be soaked. However, it was just a movement that he had seen before and could not even count as a habit. What could it prove? Lan Zhang. When Gu Duo arrived at the bar, it was already early in the morning. The bartender had called her, so she immediately took a taxi to the bar after putting down the phone. When she saw Ling Han, whose face was full of stubble and looked completely different from his usual noble image, she frowned. She pulled up a high stool and sat down. She glanced at the bartender and said, A shot of tequila. The bartender nodded. This was just enough time for Gu Duo to ask about Ling Han's situation. When did he get here? Why is he so drunk? Around midnight last night. I wasn't on duty yesterday, but I heard from the staff yesterday that we were supposed to close at 5 in the morning. But when they knew it was Mr. Ling, no one dared to chase him away. They just let him sit here. When he woke up, he would drink. When he was drunk, he would lie down. He had been drinking on and off for a day and a night. Our manager felt that something would happen if he continued drinking, so he checked his phone. The first call in the call log was Gu Duo, so it was normal for him to call her. Faced with the bartender's ambiguous gaze, Gu Duo glanced at him indifferently. "Is my tequila ready?" "It's almost ready." The bartender hastened his movements. "But aren't you going to take Mr. Ling away?" "Since I'm already here, I'll just have a drink." "Why? Are you afraid that I can't afford it?" The bartender shook his head repeatedly. "That's not what I meant." They just had to put it all on Ling Han's tab. They didn't care who they called, as long as they could get rid of this Buddha. Otherwise, if something happened to him while he was drinking, their bar would be the unlucky one. Gu Duo supported her chin with one hand and studied Ling Han's side profile, which was lying on the marble countertop. He was indeed quite good-looking. Even his drunken, unshaven and sloppy appearance gave off a noble and decadent feeling. No wonder Yi Huanyan could not forget him after so many years. "Miss, your tequila." "Okay." Gu Duo casually threw a card to the bartender and let him swipe it. Then, she sat on the bar stool and drank slowly. Ling Han slowly woke up and saw a woman sitting beside him. His eyes were hazy for a long time, and he murmured, "Yen yen." Gu Duo drank a glass of wine and sneered, "What's so good about Huanyan?" In a daze, Ling Han only felt that he was being carried out of the bar by two people. In the dim light of the night, he hugged a person for a long time and refused to let go, calling the name in his heart over and over again. In a daze, he seemed to hear that person coldly ridicule, "Yi Huanyan is the same as Su Ku. There's something wrong with their brains." The next morning, the first ray of sunlight shone into the room. It was dazzling and glaring, shining on the face. When Ling Han woke up, he was in a hotel room. The sound of water splashing came from the bathroom, filling the entire room. He looked at his surroundings in a daze, but he couldn't remember what happened last night. He only felt that his head was splitting. Not long after, with a swish, the bathroom door opened. Gu Duo wore a loose bathrobe and walked out of the bathroom while drying her hair. Standing at the door, she glanced at Ling Han on the bed with an indifferent expression. "You're awake? There's an antidote beside the bed for your headache. Take it." Chapter 390. Paris. It was already late at night when they arrived at the hotel. After the entire crew was assigned their rooms, Yi Huanyan got off the elevator and dragged her suitcase to her room. Chen Yin and Naneo were already heading to their rooms with their room cards. She turned around and realized that Su Nianhua was the only one following behind her. "Where's Guan Nai?" Yi Huanyan glanced behind Su Nianhua. "Before we got on the elevator, I saw a foreign man talking to her in the lobby. Then Guan Nai left with him. It seemed like they knew each other, so I didn't ask." Yi Huanyan nodded. "Okay, I got it." Before she entered the room, Su Nianhua wanted to say something several times, but he stopped himself. Ever since he noticed her wiping the water on the plane, he paid more attention to her habits of speech and actions. The more he observed, the more he felt that what Zhang Rou said to him was not ridiculous. She was Gu Xinyan's sister? Su Nianhua vaguely remembered that 5 years ago, when Yi Huanyan lived in Ji Xiaoya's apartment, Gu Xinyan often came in and out. He seemed to have heard Yi Huanyan call him brother by chance. All these coincidences added together were too coincidental. And now that Zhang Rou said those words to him with such certainty, he couldn't help but suspect everything. Just as he was about to close the door, he saw the little radish Naneo standing next to his suitcase. The door opposite him was already closed. He didn't notice that he had come out or that he hadn't gone in at all. "Why are you here? I'll send you back to your room. I want to talk to you." Naneo stood up straight like a little adult. "If you still want to talk about Jingjing, then forget it. I'll talk to you in 20 years. I want to talk about my mommy. I don't plan to get a divorce. But isn't my mommy your first love?" Hearing this, Su Nianhua's face turned pale. "What did you say? It's been so long. Haven't you realized that my mommy is your first love?" It seems like what my uncle said is true. Actually, you don't love my mommy that much. Men are really fickle creatures. Wait. Su Nianhua stopped Naneo. Come back and talk to me. Yi Huanyan took a shower and walked around the room, but didn't see Naneo. Only Chen Yin was practicing on the yoga mat alone in the living room. Where's now? She asked while drying her hair. You must be playing a game. Didn't you enter the bedroom as soon as you came back? Yi Huanyan pushed open the bedroom door next to her and looked around. There's nothing. Not here? Chen Yin got up from the yoga mat. She was stunned for a moment, but then she smiled and said, It's okay. He's in this room, in a corner. Just as they were talking, the doorbell rang. Both of them were stunned. Who could it be in the middle of the night? When they opened the door and saw Naneo, Yi Huanyan rolled her eyes at Chen Yin. Didn't you say that he was in the bedroom? Su Nianhua patted Naneo's head and looked at Yi Huanyan with a complicated expression. He played at my place for a while. I didn't want you to worry, so I sent him back. Hearing that, Yi Huanyan glanced at Chen Yin again. Some people volunteered to be Naneo's nanny, but the reality is that he might be missing for a night without being noticed. Chen Yin knew that she was in the wrong. She took Naneo from Su Nianhua's hand and said embarrassedly, I'm taking Naneo to take a shower. Naneo is such a smart guy. How could he go missing? After the two troublemakers left, Yi Huanyan looked up at Su Nianhua seriously. Thank you. It's okay. I just wanted to ask you something. What is it? Yi Huanyan opened the door. Come in and sit. It's okay. I just want to ask you a few questions. Before he could say anything, Yi Huanyan looked hesitantly in the direction of the bathroom. Did Naneo say something to you? It's not just him. Xiaoro too. Yi Huanyan was stunned for a few seconds. Then she slowly raised the corner of her mouth and revealed a smile. I didn't want to hide it from you. I just thought that it would be too troublesome to explain. You don't mind, right? She admitted it calmly. Her attitude was the same in front of everyone who recognized her. Only Ling Han treated her differently. Su Nianhua's eyes were a little wet. He turned his head to hide his sadness. After a while, he suddenly pulled Yi Huanyan into his arms and hugged her tightly. It's good that you're back. The sudden hug made Yi Huanyan's heart tighten. After a long time, she calmed down. She had no place to put her hands. She patted his back hesitantly and said softly, So, explain it to Xiaoro clearly. I can use my power to give you a break so you can go back and explain it to her. Su Nianhua hugged her for a long time before letting go. His eyes were wet, and his voice was nasal. He almost choked. It's okay. I'll call her and explain it clearly. A person needed time to recover from a sudden shock. Even though Su Nianhua accepted the fact that she was back so calmly on the surface, she could see that he was flustered and unprepared from the way he fled. Yi Huanyan stood at the door for a long time before closing it. On the other hand, Su Nianhua was sobbing when he answered the phone with Zhang Ro, who was an ocean away. A week after the movie started shooting in Paris, Su Nianhua seemed to have adapted to Yi Huanyan's identity. He could also chat with Yi Huanyan on the avenue of the Champs-Élysées. They talked about the past calmly and freely. Su Nianhua seemed to have let go of a lot of things because of her return. He seemed to be much more radiant than when they had just met after returning to China. Are you going to let go of the matter between you and Ling Han? I heard that he has been involved in scandals recently. Some media reporters even said that he is going to get married. What's the woman's background? Do you need me to help you investigate? The adopted daughter of the Gu family. Nominally, she is my sister. Yi Huanyan still had her hands behind her back, looking indifferent. Su Nianhua's lips twitched. How can you be so calm? What can I do if I'm not calm? But do you really think that Ling Han will marry her? In the photos that were exposed in the newspaper, she looks very similar to you in the past. Could Ling Han have misunderstood? It's just that we look alike. Could it be that Ling Han wants to marry her just because she looks like me? Then why didn't he come to me directly? After calming down for a few days, Yi Huanyan contacted her mother once. She more or less understood and guessed why Gu Duo wanted to get close to Ling Han. You trust Ling Han so much? I trust him. Yi Huanyan stopped in her tracks. The maple leaf fell on her shoulder, making her look even more gentle. Su Nianhua raised his hand and took the maple leaf from her shoulder. He smiled. I really hope that you can reconcile with each other after you come back this time. You may not know how crazy Ling Han was when you left. Tell me about it. I want to hear it. She put her hands behind her back again. They walked side by side under the setting sun. Chapter 391. Half a month later, the last scene was to be shot in Las Vegas in the United States. A group of people evacuated from Paris and rushed to the United States. There is not much gossip about Ling Han in China. After all, he is just a businessman, not a star artist. However, the news of his marriage was published in the financial newspaper. This is the only public news about Ling Han that Su Nianhua and others learned when they were shooting in Paris. Even Shang Anren couldn't help but mess up the newspaper in the crew. He scolded angrily, where did the pheasant come from to add scenes for himself? A pirated version is not embarrassed to break out this kind of news. Guan Nai is touching up her makeup. Hearing that, she looks at her faintly. Why, you still don't change your mind? Shang Anren glared. Who doesn't change their mind? I'm convinced that I lost to Yi Huanyan. What's the matter with this pirated version? How much does she look like Yi Huanyan? What's the matter? It's also a skill to look like her. What are you excited about? This time, it was Chen Yin who spoke. She was now Guan Nai's half-bodyguard and part-time assistant. In fact, she had nothing to do with collecting some food for Guan Nai. However, she liked to gossip when she had nothing to do. She gave Shang Anren a lot of face. Do you want to go to the plastic surgery and do it again? Shang Anren was so angry that she couldn't say a word. She stamped her feet angrily, got up and went out of the makeup artist to find the director. Director, I didn't play the scene well just now. Let's do it again. The scene just now was that she provoked others in the casino. It was a very powerful scene. Chen Yin was holding melon seeds and eating them as she walked. She was watching the show like an old woman on the street. Even Shang Anren, who has become the past, is not so calm. Yi Huanyan is still indifferent, which can't help but make people confused. She was so calm that Su Nianhua once thought that she had planned to give up Ling Han. Financial newspapers have never made groundless accusations. Don't you think the news of the marriage this time is true? Su Nianhua asked. Yi Huanyan put down the script in her hand and said seriously, the last scene is in 3 days. It will be at the church in the western suburbs. The venue has been decided. In the afternoon, there will be a wedding. After the wedding, it will be our turn to film. Su Nianhua frowned. Yen, what time is it? In my opinion, you should hurry back to China after finishing the last scene in 3 days and clear up any misunderstandings. If you want to be together, then be together. If you can't get along, then forget it. Don't hide anything from me. You don't have to go back. The wedding in 3 days will be between Ling Han and Gu Duo. Gu Xinian and Ji Xiaoye should have had enough fun on this trip. Since the night of the pleasure anniversary celebration, the two of them seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth and could not be contacted. In a situation where the two of them could not be contacted, they could only bide their time and see what Gu Duo wanted to do. Yi Huanyan did not believe that she really wanted to marry Ling Han. Her love for Gu Xinian had become an obsession. No matter what she did, it was related to him. Therefore, this wedding could not be separated from Gu Xinian. Late at night, Las Vegas, one of the 4 major gambling cities, was brightly lit. This was the city of sin, a world-famous gambling den. If you only had a few dollars left, you might come here to become rich overnight and change your life. If you were a billionaire with a net worth of more than 100 million yuan, you would instantly become a homeless person on the street. This was Las Vegas. Chen Yin's intention of pestering Yi Huanyan to go abroad was because of this. She had long wanted to go to a famous casino to play. Even if she did not play big, just a little bit would be enough to experience a thrilling movie life. Yi Huanyan was not interested in going at first, but when she returned to the hotel and found out that Chen Yin had brought Naneo to the casino, she hurriedly changed her clothes and called Sun Yanhua to go out with her. Along the way, she scolded Chen Yin, this unreliable person, countless times. On the other hand, in the casino, Chen Yin watched the dealer shake the dice and gave Naneo, who was next to her, a look. Big. Small. Many Chinese were keen to play this kind of thing with strong Chinese culture, so they kept betting on both big and small. Chen Yin glanced at Naneo hesitantly. Naneo's eyes fell on the middle position. Leopard. Chen Yin shouted and pushed all the chips in front of her. Everyone was a little stunned. Only the dealer's expression changed. Open. It was indeed a leopard. Chen Yin glanced at Naneo, squatted down, and high-fived him. The two of them looked smug. After that, Chen Yin won 10 rounds in a row until she lost interest in the dice game. Then she called the 2 waiters who were in charge of keeping the chips and followed her to the next table. They played poker, mahjong, and pai gao. With Naneo's help, they almost never lost. Before they arrived at the casino, Yi Huanyan received a call. On the other end of the line, a rough and fierce man's voice spoke in dialect English. If Yi Huanyan had not improved her English by leaps and bounds in the past few years, she might not have understood. After hearing a few words, her face turned pale. "What's going on?" asked Sun Yanhua, who was beside her. He said that Xiao Wu and Naneo were detained by the casino's people. He wants me to pay $10 million to ransom them. Why? Because he cheated. $10 million was not a lot to Yi Huanyan. She was worried about Chen Yin's temper. She might have already gotten into a fight and gotten injured. When Yi Huanyan and Sun Yanhua arrived at the casino, it was very lively. They did not see Chen Yin and Naneo. "Where are my sister and my son?" Yi Huanyan ran to the front desk and asked. Not long after the person at the front desk made a call, a burly man walked out of the casino. He looked at Yi Huanyan and questioned, "You were the one who answered the phone just now. Are Chen Yin and Gu Yao your sister and son?" Yi Huanyan frowned. "Where are they? Tell me what's going on. It's our problem. We'll give you the money to let them go. It's not our problem, so you have to let them go." Yi Huanyan tried to reason with them, but she neglected one point. Not everyone in this world liked to reason with you. Before she could finish her sentence, she even suspected that the burly man did not understand what she said. The burly man gave an order, and several men behind him rushed out and tied Yi Huanyan up. Sun Yanhua rushed forward to help, but he was also tied up. The two of them were thrown into a private room. The temperature in the room was very low. Yi Huanyan was pushed to the sofa and sat down. Her whole body was cold, and she could not help but shiver. "Chou!" Yi Huanyan sniffed and looked at the man who looked like a manager in front of her. She said unhappily, "What do you mean? This is illegal detention. If we call the police, your casino will not be able to continue operating." "Do you know who I am?" The manager was Asian. He looked very polite and said seriously, "My surname is Wang. Miss Gu, right? The 2 people who cheated in our casino are very close to you. If they come back obediently, we will let them go." Chapter 392. Then let him go. Yi Huanyan frowned. "He has nothing to do with this." Manager Wang glanced at Sun Yanhua and nodded. "You look familiar. Are you a mainland singer? Let him go, so he can help you find her." It was the middle of the night, and Yi Huanyan was worried about Chen Yin running around with Naneo and risking being chased by a large group of people. If anything happened, it would not be worth it. Manager Wang was silent for a few seconds, then nodded thoughtfully. He seemed to think that Yi Huanyan's words made sense, so he waved his hand and asked a burly man to untie Sun Yanhua. When Sun Yanhua left, Yi Huanyan lowered her voice and whispered in his ear, "Tell them to go back to the hotel and don't worry about me." Su Nianhua turned to look at her in surprise, but under her warning gaze, he hurriedly lowered his head to hide his gaze. Not long after Su Nianhua left, Yi Huanyan looked at Manager Wang slyly. "Do you know what I just said in his ear?" Manager Wang frowned. "What?" "I told him to leave and not come back." "Impossible. This is a gambling city. Do you want to die? Maybe you don't want to live anymore. Didn't you want to know who I am? My ID card is in my bag. Check it and see who I am. I can guarantee that once you're done checking, you'll release me and treat me well." The Gu family's businesses were all over the top 4 gambling cities in the world. Even though this place did not have the Gu family's logo, they were all in the same industry. In the entire industry, no one dared to disrespect the second daughter of the Gu family. Manager Wang saw that this woman in front of him was arrogant, so he did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly asked his subordinates to check her ID card. After checking, he returned with a layer of cold sweat on his forehead. "Oh, it's the second daughter of the Gu family. Please forgive us." As he spoke, he personally untied the ropes on Yi Huanyan. Yi Huanyan brushed off the dust on her body and turned her wrist. "Then I'll be leaving. As for the $10 million you're talking about, I'll go home and ask my sister what's going on. If they really owe you money, I'll return it to you. I'll use the Gu family's reputation as a guarantee." "Is that enough?" That's enough. Manager Wang nodded. Yi Huanyan snorted and turned to leave. She had only taken 2 steps when she was stopped by the dark-skinned man at the door. Manager Wang's trembling voice came from behind. Miss Gu, you can't leave." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's expression changed. She turned around and said unhappily, "What's going on?" "What do you mean?" "We didn't mean to offend you." Manager Wang's forehead was dripping with sweat. His voice was trembling as if he was the one trapped here. "It's just that our boss just said on the phone that please stay here for a while. As for the $10 million, we can forget about it." "Stay here for a while? What do you want?" Yi Huanyan's face darkened. Since she had already moved out of the Gu family's house, she had to act like a member of the Gu family. She could not bring shame to the Gu family. Manager Wang trembled in fear when she yelled at him. "Miss Gu, please don't be angry. Our boss Fu is friends with your brother. You can leave as soon as your brother arrives." "My brother?" Yi Huanyan thought hard but could not think of anyone who was friends with Gu Xinian. Gu Xinian had friends all over the world and enemies all over the world. Yi Huanyan did not know who this boss Fu was and whether he was a friend or a foe. Yi Huanyan started to regret revealing her identity so early. She was in a hurry to explain. "My brother is traveling around the world with his fiancée. He has no idea what is going on here. You have to let me go. I'll try to contact him. Our boss said that he has his ways. Just stay here and don't worry." No matter what he said, it was not going to work. Manager Wang was used to kicking the ball around. In the end, he put all the blame on boss Fu. "I'm just a messenger. I don't have any authority. Miss Gu, please stay here for a while. No matter what you want, we'll find a way to get it for you, okay? As long as you don't leave this room." In the end, Yi Huanyan was at her wit's end. She sat down on the sofa and stared at Manager Wang. After a while, she blinked and shouted, "I want to eat durian." 9 out of 10 people wouldn't be able to stand something like durian. Manager Wang's face turned green. "Please eat first. I'm going out for a while." "Stand there." Yi Huanyan glanced at her. "I didn't ask you to leave. Didn't you say that I could do whatever I wanted as long as I didn't leave this room?" Manager Wang wanted to cry but had no tears. She could only watch as Yi Huanyan ate a large piece of durian. The entire private room was filled with an unbearable stench. It was incomparably smelly. It was so smelly that she started to doubt her life. The casino outside the private room was still bustling with noise and excitement, but the faintly discernible stench gradually spread out. The guests near the private room began to voice their opinions to the casino staff, expressing their strong dissatisfaction. Ling Han picked up a handkerchief to cover his nose. He frowned and looked at the private room in the distance. He pulled a waiter aside and asked in a pure London accent, "What's going on here? Is someone eating durian?" The waiter looked troubled. He lowered his head and said, "There's a guest in the private room who likes this." "What kind of crazy guest is this?" Gu Duo frowned and looked displeased. "I'll go take a look." "Hey, no, you can't go." Gu Duo glanced at Ling Han. He stood in front of the waiter. The waiter could not stop Gu Duo and watched her break into the private room. As soon as she opened the door, Gu Duo saw a familiar figure on the sofa. After seeing the table full of durians, she covered her nose and frowned. Who was it? Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Yi Huanyan didn't expect to meet Gu Duo here. What made her feel uneasy was that at this moment, where Gu Duo was, there must be another person not far away. Sure enough, the private room door opened for the second time. The figure who entered was tall and straight. He was not inferior to the group of big black men. Ling Han's expression changed when he saw Yi Huanyan. He opened his mouth but did not say anything. Manager Wang frowned. "Miss Gu, do you know these two people?" Thinking of Gu Duo's identity and her current situation, Yi Huanyan did not want to complicate things. She just looked at them indifferently. "I don't know them. Let them go." Ling Han's expression darkened when he heard the words "I don't know them." According to Gu Duo's temper, she should have been more domineering. However, after she stared at the golden sun symbol on the sofa, her face suddenly turned pale and she blurted out, "I don't know them." Then, without waiting for Manager Wang to chase them away, she dragged Ling Han out of the private room. Seeing Gu Duo and Ling Han's intimate gestures, Yi Huanyan's eyebrows twitched and she felt pain in her eyes. Chapter 393. After coming out of the private room, Gu Duo looked like she still had a lingering fear. She hurriedly pulled Ling Han out of the casino. Ling Han frowned when he saw her walking so fast in high heels. He vaguely realized that something was wrong here. "Why are you running?" He followed her and asked. She only said, "This is not a good place to stay." He looked back at the sign of the casino and didn't move at all. Gu Duo ran to the street and suddenly found that there was no one behind her. She turned around and saw Ling Han still standing at the entrance of the casino. Her face changed immediately. She stomped her feet and walked back. "What are you doing? Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to find Gu Huanyan?" Hearing the name Yi Huanyan, Ling Han came back to his senses and said in a deep voice, "I prefer you to call her Yi Huanyan." Gu Duo's eyes turned. What a coincidence. This is one of the few interests we have in common. "What's wrong with this casino?" Ling Han glanced at her and asked as he walked. "Nothing. It's just that the boss behind this casino has some grudges with my brother. As my brother's sister, it's not appropriate for me to stay here." Hearing this, Ling Han's face changed. "Hey, where are you going?" As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and saw Ling Han turn back. Gu Duo looked at Ling Han's back and frowned. She shouted at his back, "You have to come back to hold the wedding with me. I won't care if you are beaten to death." Ling Han acted as if he didn't hear the warning behind him. He went straight through the gate of the casino and walked towards the private room where Yi Huanyan was. Gu Duo was Gu Xinyan's sister, but Yi Huanyan was Gu Xinyan's real sister. If Gu Duo was not suitable, how could Yi Huanyan be suitable? Thinking of Yi Huanyan's abnormal state just now, Ling Han's heart suddenly became very anxious. In the private room, Yi Huanyan rubbed her stomach. She really couldn't eat anything. "If Miss Gu is tired, we have a bed here. You can rest for a while. It's night now." Yi Huanyan impatiently glanced at that damned Manager Wang. "What do you mean? How long are you going to detain me? You even want me to spend the night here? Are you crazy? Do you believe that I will call the police?" Manager Wang was all smiles. "Miss Gu, if you want to call the police, you can do so at any time. We won't be able to stop you, but I'm afraid the police won't be able to enter this place. Our boss said that you're a VIP here. You can leave when your brother is here. I'm afraid that you won't be able to contact my brother at all. Don't worry about that. We've just received news that we've already contacted young Master Gu in Finland. He's currently on his private jet and should be able to arrive tomorrow. Wait, what kind of feud does my brother have with your boss? Yi Huanyan was puzzled. He had been entertaining her with good food and drinks. This was not considered a kidnapping, so he didn't give a reason to the police. But if it was not a kidnapping, why was he not letting her go? What was going on? Manager Wong lowered his head and stammered, "Well, you'd better ask your brother when the time comes." Judging from his guilty look, it was obvious that he knew the inside story. Yi Huanyan deliberately put on a domineering look and asked forcefully, "Hurry up and tell me. If you don't, I'll rush out. If you hurt me, all of you will be finished. Do you believe that? Miss Gu, don't make things difficult for us. Are you going to tell me or not?" Yi Huanyan casually picked up a piece of durian skin and was about to scratch it on her arm. "If you don't tell me, I'll make a move. If I hurt even a single hair on my body, my brother and my parents will cut you into pieces and throw you into the river to feed the tortoises. Do you believe me?" She had never done anything scary in the past. She had learned this trick from Ling Li, whom she had met for the first time. Ling Li had used the lines to scare her back then. She could be considered to have learned and applied them. "Don't." Manager Wong slapped his thigh and looked like he was forced to cry but had no tears. He began to talk about the love and hatred between their boss and Gu Sinian. By the end of the story, his eyes were shining brightly. He could even discuss the details with Yi Huanyan. "I've been here for more than 10 years. 10 years ago, our current boss was just the daughter of our big boss. She was engaged to the Gu family, which is your family. She was engaged to young Master Gu when she was a child, but I heard that young Master Gu broke off the engagement 10 years ago. The reason is unknown, but this incident directly led to a big conflict between our boss and the Gu family, which is your family. I know about this. 10 years ago, my brother just got married to my ex-sister-in-law. Yes, that's the matter. So later on, when the Gu family, which is your family, was at young Master Gu's wedding, my boss and young miss did not attend. My young miss drank at home and gambled in our casino for the entire night. Do you know how crazy my young miss was that night? She lost a lot." Yi Huanyan spat out the shell of a sunflower seed and asked in confusion. Manager Wong's eyes widened. He stretched out a hand and waved his 5 chubby fingers in front of Yi Huanyan. "She won 50 million in one night. Didn't your ex-sister-in-law pass away later on? I don't know how my young miss heard about this matter. At that time, my young miss was in Macau. When she heard that young Master Gu had closed himself off from the public because of your ex-sister-in-law, she immediately flew back and directly moved to your house with her luggage. She stayed there for half a year. I know about this too, but do you know how your young miss got my brother to open the door? After Suka's child died, Gu Sinian closed the door to all guests for more than half a month. He did not eat or drink, and the 2 elders of the Gu family were at their wits' end. In the end, his fiancée moved into Nanyuan with her luggage. After she moved in, everything went on as usual. However, Gu Sinian began to eat, which was already a very gratifying thing for the 2 elders of the Gu family. This. Manager Wong scratched his head and lowered his voice. "I heard that my young miss beat young Master Gu up and forced him to eat." "Impossible." Yi Huanyan spat out another pile of sunflower seed shells and retorted with a dark expression, "Do you think your young miss is Superman? My brother is 1.9 meters tall and has a 9th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. He has a revolver on the bedside table all year round. No one can get close to him within 2 meters. But at that time, young Master Gu hadn't eaten for half a month. He shouldn't have any physical strength, right?" Manager Wong added hesitantly, "And my young miss is also a 9th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. She is also our state's Sonda champion. Although she doesn't carry a gun, She is the vice president of the North American Nunchaku Association. The implication was that as long as she took the nunchaku she carried with her and pointed it at young Master Gu's head, he would be more or less obedient. I still think it's impossible. This is definitely a rumor. Yi Huanyan covered her ears and looked like she didn't want to listen to Manager Wang's analysis. In her heart, Gu Xinyan's majesty was absolutely not to be challenged. No one was allowed to do so. While they were talking, the door of the private room was pushed open and two big men came in. One of them said in English, "Manager, something happened. Someone in the K of Hearts private room reported that someone was taking drugs. The police are here and are interrogating and searching." Chapter 394. Manager Wang's expression changed. The smile on his face that was originally with Yi Huanyan disappeared without a trace in an instant. "Let's go and take a look." Only the two big men guarding the door were left in the private room. Yi Huanyan was bored and paced around in front of the door, trying to attract the attention of the two big men. However, the two big men seemed to have received some orders from that damn Manager Wang. All of their attention was on the door and they didn't pay her any attention. No matter whether she spoke in English or Chinese, they pretended not to understand. Just as she was lying on the sofa in frustration, the big black man suddenly picked up the walkie-talkie and mumbled something. He then said something to the other man and hurriedly opened the door and left. There was only one person left at the door. Yi Huanyan leaned on the sofa and ate an apple, looking at the other big man as she ate. Why did this scene make her feel so unusual? Was it the 36 stratagems to lure the tiger away from the mountain? Just as her thoughts were running wild, the big man at the door suddenly picked up the walkie-talkie and slipped out of the room without saying anything. Yi Huanyan was stunned. She looked around and realized that no one cared about her anymore. She hesitantly stood up from the sofa and walked towards the door. After the closed door opened a crack, she could clearly see the chaotic casino. People in all kinds of uniforms came and went in a mess. Some were casino security guards, some were casino managers, some were police, and even the traffic police were in. What was going on? Yi Huanyan stood at the door in confusion. "Let's go!" Suddenly, a black shadow appeared beside her and grabbed her wrist. With lightning speed, he pulled her out of the casino and ran wildly on the streets of the Las Vegas casinos. She ran after him and looked at the broad back in front of her. Her panic gradually calmed down and the corners of her mouth slightly curved up, revealing a brilliant smile. The streets and alleys were in chaos. They ran to the depths of a remote and quiet alley where there was no one and the lights were dim before they stopped. Yi Huanyan leaned against the wall and gasped, "Why are you back again?" Ling Han leaned against the wall opposite her, loosened his bow tie, and loosened the top two buttons of his shirt. His chest heaved. "I came back to save you." Yi Huanyan thought for a while and guessed that it was Gu Duo who told him about the owner of the casino. No wonder Gu Duo ran out as if she had seen a ghost. If the owner of this casino was really Gu Xinyan's ex-fiancé, then wasn't Gu Duo, the third party who had been trying to trip them up, the person she hated the most? In any case, she was Gu Xinyan's biological sister. It was not a big deal for her to fall into her hands. However, if Gu Duo fell into her hands, it would be very different. She gasped again and again, and the two red beans in front of her chest stood upright. He became more and more daring. One of his hands slid to the bottom of her thigh and reached into the cream-colored short skirt. It slid along the edge of the lace underwear. Separated by a thin layer of silk, he pressed down on her private area. Yi Huanyan clenched her teeth and tried to turn her head, but she could not stop the moans from coming out of her throat. The numbness throughout her body caused her to completely lose her rationality. In her blurred state of mind, she felt a touch coming from the lower part of her body. That layer of cloth was the last barrier between the two of them, and under his touch, it instantly disappeared. With skin-to-skin contact, she could clearly feel his fingertips sliding around her private area. Every touch brought about a tremor of extreme pleasure. She shivered and pulled his collar tighter, but the back of her head was firmly pressed against the wall, unwilling to let go. "Yen, do you want it?" He found her lips. In between kisses, he panted heavily and asked in a deep and blurred voice. The voice of a patrol officer came from the alley. It was a string of fluent English. Did you find them? 2 people, they went that way. Yi Huanyan's body stiffened. She pushed against his chest with all her might, but her body was limp and weak. It was no different from hitting a rock with an egg. He sealed her lips and could not make a single sound. Below her, he did not hesitate to advance. His fingers slid smoothly into her body without any resistance. In the moment he twitched, she let out a cry in the endless kisses. Her face was like a peach blossom. Chapter 395. In the darkness, a group of patrolling police officers quickly ran past the entrance of the alley, but no one noticed the strange movement in the depths of the alley. Yi Huanyan didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She gritted her teeth and endured the pleasure brought by the impact on her body. The feeling of forbearance and passion spread all over her body, penetrating into every pore, making her tremble and resonate. His movements became faster and faster, and she raised her head to look at the night sky above the alley. Her eyes were blurred, and she was brought to the peak of pleasure by him. With her clothes in a mess, Yi Huanyan's private parts were all exposed to the air. Her snow-white body was plated with a layer of bright light under the moonlight, and at this moment, all of her shyness had been burned away by the passion, leaving only infinite attachment. He turned her by the shoulders and lifted her waist so that she was arching her back to him. The belt made a crisp sound in the air, and the scalding heat pressed against her thighs. Her hands were on the wall, and her face was crimson. She had not recovered from the extreme pleasure just now, and at this moment, she was panting heavily. Her twin peaks were trembling in the air, as if they were about to fall. His low and hoarse voice sounded in her ears. Yen Yen, call my name. Hun. Ah. En. Ah. The skin behind her collided, and it was as if the endless emptiness in her body was filled. Her hands that were supporting herself on the wall kept trembling, and her teeth were biting on her lips. Along with his fast rhythm, her whole body trembled crazily, and her mouth made intermittent moans. She was extremely charming and flirtatious. She didn't know how long it lasted, but it seemed like he couldn't be satisfied with this position. When her legs were about to go limp, he hugged her and pressed her against the wall to do it again. The moonlight poured down in torrents, and the passion was uncontrollable. In the end, she collapsed in his arms, burying her head in his chest and pushed, panting. "Let me go, I don't have any strength left." Only then did he unwillingly stop. This was the first time she had made love with him since she admitted her identity. To him, it was a confirmation. He was afraid that this was a dream, so he held her tightly and refused to let go. A cell phone rang in the alley. Yi Huanyan hurriedly put on her clothes, then bent over to pick up the bag that had long been thrown on the ground. She took out her cell phone, and a familiar voice came from the other end. "Yen Yen, Chen Yin and Naneo have been taken away by them." Hearing this, her face turned pale. "I'll be right there." Ling Han grabbed her wrist. "I'll go with you." Yi Huanyan frowned, turned around and brushed his hand away. "It's okay, I can go by myself. The boss of the casino just has a little conflict with my brother, he won't do anything to me. It's not good for you to go. Those patrol officers are probably looking for you. Solve it as soon as possible." There was still a strange flush on her face after the pleasure, which made people yearn for her. When she ran to the entrance of the alley, Ling Han suddenly said anxiously, "I'll explain to you about the wedding another day." "I won't do anything to let you down." Yi Huanyan stood at the entrance of the alley, turning back to look at the figure in the dark, who could no longer be seen clearly. The corners of her mouth turned up, revealing a dazzling smile. "I know." When Yi Huanyan arrived at the casino's private room, the room was in a mess. Only Chen Yin's arrogant voice could be heard in the room. "Let me go if you have the guts. I'll fight you one-on-one. I'll beat you until your mother can't recognize you." Yi Huanyan pushed open the door. As soon as she entered, Naneo called out, "Mommy," and rushed over without any explanation. His face was covered in dirt, and he looked like a little beggar by the roadside. Yi Huanyan's heart ached when she saw this. Chen Yin was handcuffed to the bedpost. As soon as she saw her, she shouted, "Older sister Yan Yan, hurry and leave. Hurry and find him." Yi Huanyan was in a daze when a familiar voice sounded, "Miss Gu, you're finally back." Manager Wang held a handkerchief in one hand and covered his right eye as he walked to the door. Yi Huanyan's expression immediately turned cold. She said sternly, "What's going on? Didn't you say that you would treat them well and not make things difficult for them? Who told you to arrest them?" Manager Wang covered his eyes and said helplessly, "It really wasn't us who caught them. They sent themselves to our door. The moment they arrived at our casino, they didn't say anything and started to destroy the place. Our people outside didn't know what was going on and started to fight. I rushed out immediately and at least I managed to protect your young master. As for that lady, we didn't dare to do anything to her. Besides, look, the ones who were at a disadvantage are our people." As he spoke, Manager Wang removed the handkerchief from his eye, revealing a bruised eye. It was a terrifying sight. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. After a long explanation, she finally understood the cause and effect of the situation. After Su Nianhua left, he called Chen Yin. Unfortunately, Chen Yin's phone was about to run out of battery. She heard the words "they have detained Yan Yan," and her phone automatically turned off. Chen Yin was an impatient person and immediately rushed back to the casino. In the end, she arrived at the same time as the police were investigating for drug use. The scene became extremely chaotic. In the end, it was Manager Wang who acted as a guarantor and did not allow the police to take Chen Yin away. Instead, he let them deal with it themselves. With Chen Yin's violent temper, she had never heard a word from Manager Wang. Manager Wang kindly wanted to explain to her, but she punched his eye until it was swollen. At this point, he could only wait for Yi Huanyan to return. After the handcuffs were unlocked, Chen Yin moved her wrists and looked completely unguilty. She glared angrily at Manager Wang. "You deserve it. How can you blame me for your eye being swollen? Who asked you to accuse me of cheating in the beginning and then detain my sister? You're a black-hearted casino. Don't you know what kind of background my sister has?" Yes. It's not your fault. I didn't explain clearly." Manager Wang took a big step back, as if he was afraid that Chen Yin would hit him again. He looked like a yes man. Then what happened to Naoneo's face? Yi Huanyan looked at her pink son's face and was naturally very unhappy. Speaking of this, Naneo nestled in Yi Huanyan's arms and looked faintly at Chen Yin. Chen Yin coughed dryly and said resentfully, "The streets were full of police. I thought they were going to arrest us, so I had to disguise Naneo and smear a handful of dust on him." Yi Huanyan could not help but roll her eyes at her. Then what about the cheating incident? If she had not accused him of cheating in the beginning, there would not have been such a mess later on. Speaking of this, Chen Yin glared at Manager Wang angrily. "This damn fatty, you insist that I'm cheating. If I win money, then I'm cheating. If I lose money, then I'm unlucky. Why is your casino so good at making money?" Manager Wang was physically and mentally exhausted. His face was bitter and he looked like he was about to cry. "I didn't say that. Our Zhuang family said it. Miss Chen has won too many rounds. The Zhuang family is an expert here. How can we not believe his words? At first, we just wanted Miss Chen to cooperate with our investigation. We didn't expect that there would be a misunderstanding." Chapter 396. Yi Huanyan didn't know how good Chen Yin's gambling luck was. It wasn't like she hadn't cheated before. It was indeed unbelievable that she had won more than 10 million yuan in one night. However, she looked as if she had been wronged. She was afraid that there was more to this matter than met the eye. "Why don't you call your dealer over to confront us?" Yi Huanyan suggested. Manager Wang looked worried. The dealer was taken away by the police during the chaos. "We're trying to find a way to get him out now." "See, Chen Yin interrupted Manager Wang with a smug look on her face. I told you that there was something wrong with this black-hearted casino. You even gathered people to take drugs. It's most likely a sham. Otherwise, why didn't the police arrest other casinos? The drugs were found to be brought in by the guests themselves. It has nothing to do with our casino. Miss Chen, you can't say that. We're still investigating this matter. We suspect that it was set up by our colleagues. Come on. That's enough. Stop it. Chen Yin wanted to say something else, but Yi Huanyan stopped her. This matter most likely had something to do with Ling Han, so it was better not to be so overbearing here. Manager Wang still had to clean up the mess. Before he left, he looked at Chen Yin worriedly. It was as if he was looking at a ticking time bomb. His eyes were full of worry. Yi Huanyan understood and comforted him. Go ahead. We'll stay here and not go anywhere. Is that okay? Thank you, Miss Gu. You're so kind. You're such a good person. After a long string of flattering words, Yi Huanyan became impatient. She waved her hand and signaled for Chen Yin to chase him out. In the private room, Yi Huanyan called Su Nianhua to reassure him. Then she led Naneo to wash his face. When it was time for him to sleep, she coaxed him to sleep on the bed in the private room. He was heartless and quickly fell asleep. Yi Huanyan quietly got out of bed and walked into the living room. She saw Chen Yin sitting on the sofa and yawning. Go in and sleep for a while if you're sleepy. Hearing this, Chen Yin turned her head and waved her hand. No, who knows what's going on in this casino? What if that fatty is lying? I want to keep watch. Then eat something. What if it's poisonous? Yi Huanyan rolled her eyes. Then I would have been poisoned to death long ago. These people in front of you, I tested the poison with my own body. Chen Yin was stunned for a few seconds, and her shoulders slumped. She took 2 apples, one on the left and one on the right, and wolfed them down. She almost burst into tears. Sister, you should have told me earlier. I'm starving. I bought 2 burgers on the way here. One was eaten by Now, and the other one fell on the ground and was trampled into pieces by the patrol officers. At this time, on the private jet high in the sky, a man and a woman sat on the long sofa on both sides of the spacious aisle. The atmosphere was very tense. The man's cold face was not dignified at all, and there was a trace of resentment in his eyes. Xiaoyu, there's really nothing between me and her. If Yen wasn't in her hands, I wouldn't have gotten on the plane at all. Ji Xiaoye rolled her eyes. She snorted coldly and said angrily, You told me that you were going to the bathroom. If I hadn't followed you, how would I have known that you took a car to the suburbs and even got on the plane? If you're not guilty, why did you hide it from me? You even planned to leave me alone in Finland. It's not safe for you to follow me. I'm going. Ji Xiaoye raised her chin and looked determined. I'm going to see what your amazing ex-fiancée is capable of. Does she have 3 heads and 6 arms and can ride a flaming wheel? How dare she kidnap my best friend? She really doesn't know what's good for her. Gu Xinyan's eyes showed a trace of worry. He said seriously, Xiaoyu, it's not a problem for you to follow me, but I'll say this first. Don't show your face when the time comes. Just stay in the hotel. I'm going to save my best friend. What does that have to do with you? Xiaoyu. Gu Xinyan frowned. This is not the time to throw a tantrum. You don't know, but she's not someone to be trifled with. So I'm someone to be trifled with? Ji Xiaoye's expression changed instantly. She thought of all the things that had happened in the past. She immediately felt a lump in her throat and tears welled up in her eyes. Trifled with? You've already trifled with so many women. Do you think I'm the one to be trifled with? At this moment, the stewardess happened to come over to deliver food. She looked at Gu Xinyan sympathetically. Gu Xinyan held his forehead, and there was a hint of hopelessness in his eyes. This was already the umpteenth time they had traveled around the world. Ever since he proposed, Ji Xiaoye's temper had become more unpredictable. Why didn't he notice her ability to change her expression in a second? Women were really different before and after marriage. The next morning, Gu Xinian and Ji Xiaoye's private jet landed in Las Vegas. After they got off the plane, they were sent to the casino. An hour before their plane landed in Las Vegas, a sign was hung at the entrance of the casino saying that it was closed for the day. An extended Bentley stopped at the entrance of the casino. A woman in a beige mini-skirt got out of the car. She was wearing a pair of limited edition Prada shoes. Under the pumpkin-colored beret was a head of wavy chestnut-brown hair that casually draped over her shoulders. She looked very feminine and elegant. However, this elegance was not to be underestimated. Manager Wang was already waiting at the entrance with the casino staff. There was a red carpet on the ground that led to the entrance of the casino. "Boss." The woman glanced at him. When she saw the bruise on his eye, her eyes darkened. What happened? Did someone cause trouble at the casino recently? Her voice was clear and melodious, like the sound of spring water flowing in the empty mountains after the rain. Manager Wang lowered his head. "It's nothing serious. Last night, I had a conflict with the second daughter of the Gu family." Hearing this, the woman snorted and said meaningfully, "I will help you get the medical fees back from Gu Xinian." Manager Wang smiled bitterly and did not dare to reply. "Where is the second daughter?" she asked again. "She is in the private room. She should not be awake yet." "I see. I wanted to see her first. After all, her name is a little similar to a friend of mine. But forget it. The same name does not mean that they are the same kind of people." When she said this, there was a hint of contempt in the woman's eyes. After saying this, the woman walked towards the entrance of the casino in her high heels. The elevator went straight to the 6th floor. That was her private apartment. Before she got into the elevator, she turned around and looked at the cold casino. She frowned and said, "You don't have to specially close the door. Open as usual today." Manager Wang hurriedly nodded in agreement. After he sent the boss off, he turned around and saw the door of the private room open. Chen Yin was standing at the door, looking at him with a frown. "Why are you all standing at the elevator door?" Her voice made Manager Wang shudder. He immediately shivered and the fat on his body shook. After a while he calmed down and said hesitantly, "Miss Chen, do you have any orders?" "I'm hungry. Get me something to eat." Chapter 397. When Yi Huanyan woke up, Manager Wang had already brought someone to deliver an exquisite breakfast. After Chen Yin ate 2 steamed buns, she went to the bedroom and dragged Naneo out, forcing him to wash up and eat breakfast. Naneo, who was originally a spoiled brat, gave in to Chen Yin, who was a violent person. Yi Huanyan took a sip of coffee, looked at Manager Wang, and asked, "You just said that my brother is already here? Why didn't he come to see me?" "He just arrived. You haven't woken up yet, so he didn't want to disturb you. Right now, your brother is upstairs in our boss's private apartment, discussing something with our boss." "Your boss's private apartment?" Yi Huanyan's face darkened. What does your boss look like?" "Her figure is not bad," Janine said in a hurry, then hurriedly drank the preserved egg and lean meat porridge. "You've seen her?" Yi Huanyan looked at her in surprise. "When I went out just now, I saw a figure at the entrance of the elevator. Judging from her figure, she's about the same as Sister Xiaoye, but in terms of height, the boss is obviously taller, so the possibility of rekindling old feelings is actually quite high." "Really?" A layer of worry appeared in Yi Huanyan's eyes. What if he's not good-looking? If she was really a peerless beauty, why didn't she win over Gu Xinian after pursuing him for 10 years? Chen Yin pondered for a few seconds, then shook her head. "I just saw her side profile, and I think she's quite good-looking. Why don't you take a picture? Don't you know what our boss looks like?" Manager Wang's weak voice came from the side. The two of them looked at Manager Wang at the same time and said in unison, "Of course. It's on Baidu." Manager Wang was frightened, and his face turned pale. "Our boss is the daughter of the gambling king. 5 years ago, the gambling king passed away and officially inherited all the family business. She started to officially attend all kinds of events, so there are photos of her on the internet now. The gambling king, Fu Guoqiang? Yi Huanyan asked with wide eyes. Manager Wang nodded. Naneo, who was drinking milk with his head lowered, put down his cup and silently typed a search term on his tablet. Gambling King's Daughter, which instantly appeared on Baidu Baiki. After a quick glance, he said seriously, if we're comparing looks, Godmother definitely has no chance. Yi Huanyan and Chen Yin both turned to look at Naneo in surprise. Chen Yin snatched the tablet from him. Let me see what kind of monster it is. After snatching the tablet, Chen Yin's face paled. Yi Huanyan saw that Chen Yin's expression was not right. She became more and more confused and teased. What's wrong? Was he really a monster with 3 heads and 6 arms? Or is it that the fairy has stunned you? Chen Yin's face paled as she stared blankly at the photo on the tablet. She blinked several times, then hesitantly turned the photo on the tablet in Yi Huanyan's direction. This person is Sister 4? The person in the photo was none other than Fu Yingxiang. In the apartment on the 6th floor of the casino, a waiter in a red vest led Gu Xinian upstairs and quietly pushed him back down. The door was not closed, and there was a faint orchid fragrance inside. Gu Xinian took a deep breath, pushed open the door and walked in. Xiaoying. Close the door. A clear voice came from the room. It came from the tea table in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. The faintly discernible orchid fragrance was coming from this direction. A woman in plain clothes was sitting in front of the table brewing tea. Gu Xinian frowned and closed the door. Xiaoying, do you know who you've detained? Your sister. I know. The one I've been looking for several years. Then do you know who my sister is? I'm not interested in that. Sit down first. You've been hiding from me all these years. It's not easy to find a chance to force you out. I just want to talk to you about the matter between us. She poured tea and put the cup on the opposite side of the table with her slender fingers, indicating that he should sit down. Gu Xinian had to unbutton his suit and sit opposite her. I heard that you got married again? Yes. The editor-in-chief of Fengshang magazine? Yes. I thought that you would stay by Ku's side for the rest of your life. I didn't expect that both Gu Duo and I were wrong. Some people's hearts were not dead and would never love again. They just didn't love you anymore. Before I met her, I also thought that I would stay by Ku's side for the rest of my life. That sounds ironic. Can she accept it? Who are you asking about her? Your current wife, or your sister in the past? This is my own business. It has nothing to do with her. Then what about our business? Fu Yingxiang's expression changed slightly. She looked at him seriously. Don't you think that you owe me an explanation? I'm sorry. Gu Xinian frowned. I'm very sorry about what happened between us. But you have to let Yen Yen and her friend go. You said that you won't let me have anything against you in this life. If you do, you have to agree to my request. So do you think I'll let them go? It's been so many years. You still remember? A bitter smile appeared on Gu Xinian's lips. Fu Yingxiang blinked and put down the teacup. Her expression was indifferent. How could I not remember? This was the only hope you gave me 10 years ago. I think you should have gotten back the evidence you left in Gu Duo's hands. But what about me? Are you surprised? You're my biological sister and nephew. In exchange for a request of mine, you won't lose out. Gu Xinian exhaled slowly. I'm afraid I can't agree to your request. This information isn't mine. At most, it's my weakness. But this weakness is also yours. What do you mean? I don't think I've ever told you who was the one who delivered your address to Gu Qi in prison number 4. Gu Xinian curled his lips into a sly smile. My sister's surname used to be Yi. Fu Yingxiang's face turned pale. What did you say? At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Fu Yingxiang asked unhappily, What's the matter? Manager Wang's voice came from the door. Boss, Miss Gu is downstairs asking to see you. Miss Chen, who's with her, also wants to see you. She said that she knew you before. You see, Gu Xinian picked up his teacup, took a sip of tea and said faintly, that Miss Chen is called Chen Yin. Before Yi Huanyan went, she was ranked 5th in prison number 4. Everyone called her Little Five. Fu Yingxiang's expression froze. She stared at Gu Xinian as if she had eaten a fly. All of her reserved calmness was gone. She frowned and her voice deepened. Why didn't you say so earlier? Gu Xinian raised his eyebrows. At this moment, he had already returned to his calm and collected appearance. I wanted to, but you didn't seem to give me the chance. Ever since he was informed that Yi Huanyan was detained in the casino, he had been unable to contact her. And the person she sent to pick him up said that he had arrived in Las Vegas. Naturally, there was plenty of time to communicate. Looking at Fu Yingxiang's pale face, Gu Xinian's eyes revealed an indescribable sense of pleasure. This was called going for wool and coming home shorn. Chapter 398. While Manager Wang was speaking, Gu Xinian had already opened the door and walked out. Young Master Gu. He bowed his head respectfully. Gu Xinian turned around and glanced at him. Your boss wants to be alone. Don't bother her. Take me to see my sister. A trace of astonishment appeared in Manager Wang's eyes. The boss in the room did not make any sound. For a moment, he even suspected that young Master Gu had killed his boss. Seeing him standing motionless at the door, Gu Xinian frowned. He turned around and knocked on the door. Xiaoying, say something. After a long while, a cold voice rang out in the room. It was very concise and to the point. Take him there. Manager Wang trembled in fear and quickly nodded. Yes. Yi Huanyan had been waiting downstairs for a while. Manager Wang did not come down for a long time. If it were not for the 2 burly men guarding the elevator, she would have dragged Chen Yin and rushed in. Hey, what's wrong with you two? Don't you understand Chinese? Your boss is my 4th sister. Do you understand? Chen Yin waved her fist in front of a dark-skinned man who was 2 heads taller than her. He did not even bat an eyelid. After all, knowing that this was Fu Yingxiang's place, the 2 of them were too embarrassed to fight. Instead, they were afraid of the slightest thing. The elevator slowly descended. After the door opened with a ding, Gu Xinian walked out with Manager Wang behind him. There was no need for Manager Wang to take him there. Yi Huanyan was standing at the elevator entrance waiting for him. When she saw Gu Xinian, Yi Huanyan quickly looked behind him. Brother, where's Sister Ying? Gu Xinian raised his eyebrows. She said she brought you a gift, so she'll come down later. She knows it's me. Yi Huanyan widened her eyes. Then why? I want to play a joke with you. Gu Xinian's lips curved into a teasing smile. They had lunch at the casino restaurant. Yi Huanyan and Chen Yin were lucky enough to see Fu Yingxiang before lunch. They were led by Manager Wang to her apartment. When she saw Yi Huanyan, Fu Yingxiang was stunned. Even though Gu Xinian had told her that Yi Huanyan had undergone plastic surgery, she was still shocked by such a drastic change. Chen Ying was so excited that she pounced on her and gave her a hug. 4th elder sister, you haven't contacted us all these years. If we didn't come here, would we have never seen you again? Fu Yingxiang explained, after I was released from prison, I spent the first 2 years dealing with my father's funeral. There were many things going on at home, and I had enemies chasing after me. How would I dare to look for you? Any random person would become her weakness. That year, when Gu Qi heard from Yi Huanyan that Fu Yingxiang was in prison number 4, he brought her out of prison as quickly as possible and sent her back to Las Vegas. The members of the Fu family were waiting for her in Las Vegas to take charge of the situation. She had inherited the family business, but she still did not dare to appear in public. There were many people under her father's command who wanted to kill her and usurp the throne. They gradually eliminated some of them and waited for 2 years before officially announcing that she had inherited the family business. Have a seat. Fu Yingxiang was at a loss of what to do. After all, the person who had been captured was her savior and a good friend of hers. She had always felt guilty towards Yi Huanyan because of this. So you are the daughter of the gambling king. No wonder big sister always told me not to worry about you. Chen Ying said a lot of things, and the atmosphere was much more relaxed than it was at the beginning. Actually, from the moment they entered the room, Yi Huanyan could tell that Fu Yingxiang had misunderstood this matter from the uneasy expression on her face. She probably did not know that she had been arrested. Gu Xinyan's words just now were just to cover for her. After chatting for a while, Fu Yingxiang unhappily called Manager Wang over when the matter of cheating at the casino was brought up. Go and ask Li Sai to come back. Tell him what happened last night. Was he the one who cheated, or was it someone else? How can you believe someone like him? Manager Wang was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. He quickly apologized. I'll go now. Chen Yin immediately jumped up from the sofa. I'll go with you. With that said, she followed Manager Wang out of the apartment. Only Yi Huanyan and Fu Yingxiang were left in the room. They sat opposite each other for a long time. The tea in front of them was a little cold. Fu Yingxiang's voice was a little dry, and she looked very embarrassed. Yan, I'm sorry. If I knew it was you, I wouldn't. There's nothing to be sorry about. Your subordinates are actually quite good to us. Yi Huanyan shrugged indifferently. What I'm more curious about is that when you told me in prison that you had a fiancé, if this person was not Guqi, then you were actually talking about my brother, right? Speaking of this, Fu Yingxiang's face turned red. What fiancé? It was just my wishful thinking. You and my brother. Let's not talk about him. I've already given up on him. Fu Yingxiang suddenly raised her head and held her hand. Let's just say that we're not fated to be together. I didn't do what I did this morning, so I owe you another one. Seeing that she was so serious, Yi Huanyan felt embarrassed. We're sisters, what's the point of owing each other a favor? That's another matter. Yi Huanyan frowned. After thinking for a few seconds, she sat up straight and said, How about this? I'll ask you a question. It's a question that has been bothering me for a long time. If you tell me, then we'll be even, okay? Fu Yingxiang nodded solemnly. Ask away. About 10 years ago, when my ex-sister-in-law and my brother's child had just died, my brother didn't eat or drink at home, right? What method did you use to make him start eating? Hearing this, Fu Yingxiang's face stiffened, and she said embarrassedly, Why do you ask this question? Manager Wang insisted that you beat my brother to the ground, and then used nunchucks to strangle his neck to force him to eat. I don't think that's possible. Little Wang. Fu Yingxiang gritted her teeth when she said these 2 words. A certain manager on duty downstairs sneezed several times at this time, and his eyelids twitched. I bet 1,000 yuan with him, and your answer is related to my money. Fu Yingxiang's face stiffened, as if she had been silently preparing in her heart for a long time. Then she took a deep breath and asked, Do you really want to know? Of course, how could it be fake? Okay, she slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, trying to make her tone calm, as if nothing had happened, but her voice was still a bit lower. In fact, it's nothing. At that time, he was lying in the room half dead, and I injected him with nutrient solution for several days. He refused to eat, so I gave him injections. His hands and feet were full of needle holes. Later, he couldn't take it anymore, so he could only eat. That's it? Fu Yingxiang lowered her head and stammered. Also, I told him that if he didn't eat, I would give him an injection of aphrodisiac. Yi Huanyan held back for a while, then suddenly burst out laughing. She laughed until tears came out. The truth of the aphrodisiac was really shocking. It was unbelievable that Fu Yingxiang, who usually looked very classical, had such a passionate and unrestrained side. Chapter 399. At lunchtime, a group of people sat at a long table covered with a white tablecloth in the restaurant of the casino's box. It was as if they had agreed not to mention anything about Yi Huanyan and the others being detained. Ji Xiaoye arrived before dinner. Gu Xinian was in a hurry to leave. Seeing his anxious look, Yi Huanyan guessed that Xiao Yu had followed him. He was afraid that his ex-fiancée would bump into his current fiancée. Yi Huanyan knew Ji Xiaoye very well. Since she was already here, if she didn't see Fu Yingxiang, there would be a thorn in her heart. If this thorn was brought back to China, she was afraid that her marriage with her brother would be fraught with difficulties. After a long time, the people around her would be in trouble. She decided to call Ji Xiaoye without telling Gu Xinian. When she called, she found out that she was indeed in Las Vegas. Gu Xinian arranged a hotel for her and gave her his card. This directly led to Ji Xiaoye, a shopaholic, shopping in the mall the whole morning. The things she bought filled half of the mall's floor. When Yi Huanyan called, she was directing the mall security guards to move things into the car. These things were not checked in, so there was no way she could take them with her. When Ji Xiaoye heard that she was going to eat with her ex-deskmate, she only threw a sentence over the phone. "Your lunch will start later. I'll go to the nearest beauty salon first." When Ji Xiaoye arrived at noon, the casino's corridor almost became her personal runway. She was wearing a little black dress with fluttering black feathers. The design of the dress revealed her slender swan neck. Her face was meticulously done with makeup. It could be said that she was in a very good state. After holding Gu Xinian's hand and walking into the restaurant, she raised her chin and looked around. Then, her gaze landed on Fu Yingxiang. There were only 3 women present. Other than Yi Huanyan and Chen Yin, the remaining woman was naturally Fu Yingxiang. Over the phone, Yi Huanyan had told her about how the flood had washed away the Dragon King Temple. Therefore, she knew that Fu Yingxiang was Yi Huanyan's sister who had gone through thick and thin together in prison. Therefore, she was prepared to be magnanimous before she came. However, when their eyes met, she still couldn't restrain her emotions. His face fell instantly. "Hello, I am Fu Yingxiang." Ji Xiaoye held onto Gu Xinian's arm with a stiff expression. She didn't say anything, and it could be said that she didn't give him any face at all. Yi Huanyan desperately tried to signal her with her eyes. She nodded reluctantly and spat out 3 words in a very stingy manner, her tone cold. "Ji Xiaoye." She didn't have any manners at all. After sitting down, she fiercely pinched Gu Xinian. Because Yi Huanyan was sitting with them, when Ji Xiaoye pinched Gu Xinian's thigh, this action fell into her eyes very clearly. Gu Xinian was obviously in pain, but he only furrowed his brows. Yi Huanyan felt a little sorry for her brother. While Chen Yin, Manager Wang, and Fu Yingxiang were discussing the matter of the cheating, she lowered her voice and asked Ji Xiaoye a question. "What's wrong? Didn't we talk about it before we came? You have to be magnanimous and have the aura of a first wife." Ji Xiaoye gritted her teeth. She used the fork in her hand to smash the cherry tomatoes in the fruit salad. She gritted her teeth and said, "You didn't tell me on the phone that she was so good-looking." Hearing this, Yi Huanyan subconsciously raised her head to look at Fu Yingxiang, who was sitting opposite her. She was wearing a cream-colored knitted cardigan with a casual white t-shirt inside. She had light makeup on, and her chestnut-brown wavy curls were tied up behind her head. A few strands of hair fluttered in front of her forehead. She had a kind of demure temperament about her. The people present were all dressed more casually. This made Ji Xiaoye's outfit look too grand. The makeup on her face was also a little thicker. In comparison, she couldn't help but fall short. Thinking of this, Ji Xiaoye pinched Gu Xinian again. Yi Huanyan really couldn't bear to see her brother suffer, so she lowered her voice and whispered something in her ear. Ji Xiaoye released her hand and said in a daze, "Are you serious?" "Yes, really." Yi Huanyan nodded seriously. A long time after returning home from Las Vegas, Gu Xinian suddenly thought of this matter and asked Yi Huanyan several times. What exactly did she say to Ji Xiaoye that made her suddenly change her attitude towards Fu Yingxiang? Yi Huanyan just smiled without saying anything. At this moment, Ji Xiaoye suddenly raised a glass of red wine and proposed a toast to Fu Yingxiang. "I heard that Mississippi Fu took great care of Yen Yen when she was in prison. As her best friend and as her future sister-in-law, I would like to propose a toast to you. I hope that we can be friends in the future. This action saved some face for Gu Xinian and also helped her regain some of her poise. Fu Yingxiang had been in the casino for so many years, so she was very good at speaking. The two of them drank back and forth, and after 3 rounds of drinking, they were enjoying themselves. At the dinner table, the matter of Chan Yin cheating at the casino was brought up. It was found out that the dealer, Li Side, had lost too much and framed Chen Yin. Chen Yin had won so much money in half a night partly because of luck and partly because she had Naneo, the little strategist, by her side. When Chen Yin pushed Naneo out, apart from Gu Xinian, everyone, including Yi Huanyan, was shocked. Mississippi Chen, please don't joke around. No matter how talented your young master is, he can't be so successful at the gambling table, right? This is a place where luck is a factor. Because Manager Wang had taken 2 punches from Chen Yin for nothing, Fu Yingxiang made an exception and called him over to eat at the same table. But from Yi Huanyan's point of view, this was not a good reward for Manager Wang. During the entire meal, Fu Yingxiang would occasionally glare at him and rebuke him, making him tremble in fear as if he was treading on thin ice. This was completely a personal vengeance, and he did not know how he had offended his own boss. You all don't believe me? Chen Yin looked around and did not find a satisfied expression on anyone's face. She suddenly became anxious. Naneo, let's show them what we can do. Saying this, she turned to a big man behind her and shouted, Bring over a dice cup, 3 dice. That big man clearly did not understand what she said and looked at her blankly. Fu Yingxiang repeated it in English. Only then did the big man run away as if he had been enlightened. Not long after, a dice cup was brought to the table. Chen Yin held the dice cup and raised her eyebrows. So that no one will accuse me of cheating again, who wants to shake it? I'll do it, Manager Wang volunteered. Before shaking the dice, Fu Yingxiang asked, Are you guys guessing the number of points or the size of the dice? Chen Yin did not even look at Naneo and directly said, The number of points and the size of the dice is child's play, and it's just guessing the size of the dice. You won't believe that I won so much money. In a casino, the more difficult the game was, the higher the chances of winning and losing. Chen Yin was able to win more than 10 million in just 2 hours. She definitely didn't win it just by sitting at the simplest dice table in the entire casino. Chapter 400. Fu Yingxiang coughed dryly. Are you sure? Chen Yin was displeased. Why would I lie to you? Why would I lie to you now? Chen Yin panicked when she realized that no one supported her. Ji Xiaoye chimed in. My godson is a child prodigy. I believe that he has the ability to do so. Miss Fu, you don't have to jump to conclusions so quickly. Fu Yingxiang's expression did not change despite being reprimanded by Ji Xiaoye. She merely smiled faintly before she turned to look at Manager Wang and signaled for him to roll the dice. The dice clinked against each other in the dice cup. Yi Huanyan was sitting closest to Naneo. She realized that her son had closed his eyes and was mumbling something, but she could not hear him clearly. With a clang, Manager Wang slammed the dice cup on the table and slowly moved it forward. The dining table instantly quieted down. Not a single sound could be heard. How many? 2, 4, 6. Naneo opened his eyes. His voice was tender, but his gaze was so firm that he did not seem to be someone his age. Manager Wang lifted the dice cup nonchalantly. Everyone looked at each other when they saw the numbers of the 3 dice in the cup. Other than Gu Xinian, everyone else had a look of disbelief on their faces. Again. Manager Wang seemed to have never heard of this before. He did not wait for anyone to react before he hurriedly rolled the dice again. How many? 1, 3, 6. He lifted the dice cup and it was exactly the same. Again. How many? 2, 4, 5. He lifted the dice cup and it was exactly the same. He repeated the same thing more than 10 times, but he did not miss a single time. Manager Wang was sweating profusely as though he had just run a marathon. He stared blankly at Naneo. Luckily, we wronged Miss Chen last night. If we had allowed them to continue playing, they would have won the entire casino. Nanao was holding a wooden spoon as he dug into the mashed potatoes in front of him. He looked nonchalant as he spoke in a childish voice. Isn't it just good hearing? What's the big deal? Don't make such a fuss. His childish voice was accompanied by the expression of a little adult, but his hands were clumsily digging for mashed potatoes. This scene made everyone laugh heartily. After the meal, everyone left the casino. Gu Xinian accompanied Ji Xiaoye back to the hotel. Chen Yin also left with Nanao. Before leaving, Yi Huanyan hugged Fu Yingxiang and winked slyly. You're really not coming with me? I still have some things to do this time. I'll definitely look for you when I'm done. If I didn't have a scene at the theater tomorrow, I would have stayed here with you tonight. There's plenty of time. Now that I've broken the ice with your brother, your Four Seasons villa should release me in the future, right? Her voice was a little sad, and he couldn't bear to refuse. Ask. This question is actually very vulgar. Don't mind it. Okay. If it was Ji Xiaoya now and I was in the same situation 9 years ago, would you let her go? 9 years ago, it was when she was closest to Gu Xinian. She once thought that after spending those days with him, it would be a lifetime. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. When he spoke again, his voice was very difficult. Sorry. This answer seemed to have nothing to do with the question, but she understood the meaning of these two words better than anyone else. Sorry, if it was her, I wouldn't let her go. 9 years ago, she lived in the Four Seasons Villas Nanyuan and accompanied Gu Xinian every day. After half a year, his sister, who had admired him for many years, felt threatened, so she used a set of ashes to threaten her to leave the villa. In her eyes, death was like a light going out. All of this was meaningless. However, in Gu Xinian's eyes, it was the belief of Gu Duo's hometown. A dead person should be buried in the ground. A broken body could not be reincarnated, so he tacitly agreed that Gu Duo let her go. She used to think that no woman could compare to Su Ku. Her love for him was only second to this dead woman and his child. But she was wrong. The word, sorry, made her finally realize that that love was just her imagination. 9 years ago, Gu Xinian just needed a woman's warm companionship, and she happened to appear and accompany him for a period of time. During that time, she thought that the gentleness had nothing to do with love. It was all an illusion. You have nothing to be sorry for. In fact, you were willing to take such a big risk to save me 5 years ago. We're even. 9 years ago, she used the life-saving grace 5 years ago as a reward. Since then, they didn't owe each other anything. After hanging up the phone, Fu Yingxiang leaned against the soft cushion of the bay window and looked at the bustling streets of Las Vegas. Her heart became more and more lonely and empty. The night was dark, and tears were flowing. Chapter 401. In Las Vegas, in front of the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse suite of a 5-star hotel, a woman in a pink bathrobe walked to the man with a glass of red wine. Want a drink? Ling Han glanced sideways. Am I so familiar with you that we can drink together? The woman didn't care about his cold attitude at all. Don't forget, you're going to marry me in 2 days. I've already sent out the invitations. When the time comes, my biological parents, your grandfather's family, and your brothers and sisters will all come. I don't plan to play with you. I'm curious. Why do you want this wedding? Do you just want to anger Yen Yen and me, or do you just want to do it for Gu Xinian? What do you think? What do I think? Ling Han sneered. No matter who you want to do it for, I'm afraid you won't get what you want. It's just a waste of time. Is that so? Yi Huanyan heard that you and I are going to have a wedding here, so didn't she rush over? Am I the one who's tormenting, or is she? She's here to act, Ling Han corrected. She's doing well in France. Why did she transfer to Las Vegas? This scene wasn't set in her original script. She went through a lot of trouble, and some people don't appreciate it. I feel sad for her. In the end, You're just saying these things to me to make my heart ache for her. Actually, you just want to see her brooding about this wedding and even ruin it. But what's the point of that to you? Is it your pleasure to see others fall in love but can't be together? Ling Han frowned, displeasure written all over his face. Whether it's my pleasure or not, you have to complete this wedding with me. I'll only give you the thing after the wedding and get on the honeymoon plane with me. And then it's none of your business. Gu Duo picked up the wine glass and walked to the seat beside him, overlooking the bustling streets of Las Vegas. The world is so beautiful. Looking at you love-struck men and resentful women around me, I feel like I've lived in vain. Ling Han looked at the side of her face from the corner of his eye. This face was 70% similar to Yi Huanyan, but he couldn't find her charm. They were both in their 30s, but this woman's mind seemed to be filled with bigotry. On the eve of the wedding, Yi Huanyan knocked on the door of Ling Han's hotel room. She leaned against the door with a teasing smile on her face. What happened to you? If you want to ask why am I here? Yi Huanyan flashed into the room and sat down on the sofa casually. She raised her eyebrows and said, I just checked in this afternoon. If you want to know why I am here, why don't you come here? Let me tell you, I'm here to ask you for an invitation. Invitation? Ling Han's face darkened. Isn't it inappropriate for you not to invite me to your wedding? Yi Huanyan blinked. After all, I'm your ex-wife. I'll explain to you after the wedding. The fire in the alley had basically solved all the problems. Even if neither of them explained what had happened before, the knot in their hearts that had been tied for 5 years showed signs of loosening. Explain what? Explain that Gu Duo tried every means to threaten you to have a wedding with her? Ling Han frowned. Yi Huanyan had already picked up the red wine glass on the table and poured half a glass for herself. She lazily took off her shoes and leaned against the sofa. She threatened you with the ashes of my brother's son? He pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He didn't need to think to know that he had guessed correctly. How could such a small trick threaten you? I always thought that you were invulnerable. When she was describing him, she hesitated for a moment. After she finished speaking, she carefully looked at him. Suddenly, the person in front of her was different from the cold and ruthless man in her impression. Ling Han stood in front of the sofa. He was 187 meters tall, but he looked a little cramped in front of Yi Huanyan. He still owed Yi Huanyan an explanation about the wedding, but he didn't have any confidence that such an explanation was really important to her. Her dazzling return and the child she had with whom he didn't know had all made him extremely disheartened. The evaluation of invulnerability seemed to be a kind of mockery to him. He stared at her in a daze, then lowered his head and said in a low voice, The invulnerable is an immortal, Yen Yen. I'm just an ordinary person. A slightly stunned expression flashed across Yi Huanyan's eyes. After a while, she said bitterly, Actually, this matter has nothing to do with you. You don't have to be involved. Even if Gu Duo had asked for something unreasonable, he could have rejected it flatly because she wasn't a member of the Gu family. She didn't have a good relationship with Gu Xinian, so there was no need for Gu Xinian's weakness to become his weakness. It was very unreasonable. Then what do you think is related to me now? Ling Han slowly raised his head, as if he had been provoked by the words, It has nothing to do with you. His eyes were bloodshot, but it wasn't anger, but deep sadness. Yi Huanyan was stunned. She suddenly stood barefoot on the carpet and poured another glass of red wine in front of him. It's about drinking. I still like drinking with you. The sadness in his eyes couldn't be erased. He took the wine glass, tilted his head back, and drank it in one gulp. Yi Huanyan was stunned. She hesitated and said, Drink slowly. Was it because 5 years had been too long, or because she had hurt him too deeply 5 years ago? She was so calm now, but she could always transform into a sharp knife at any time and cut into his heart. He missed the Yi Huanyan who dared to admit her love in front of him 5 years ago. He missed the Yi Huanyan who risked everything to climb into his bed. He missed the Yi Huanyan who loved him deeply and left no room for negotiation no matter how many embarrassing things he did to her. But he knew that even if he spent a lifetime with her, he wouldn't be able to find her again. Ling Han couldn't hold his liquor well. After 2 glasses of wine, he felt a little dizzy and his steps were unsteady. Yi Huanyan hugged his neck and slowly swayed to the rhythm of the music in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. She looked satisfied. "Hey, don't you think it's pretty good that we're like this now? As long as you like it." His voice was low as usual. He finally gave up on pestering her and became obedient to her every whim. "My 4th sister said to leave the ashes to her. Don't go. Yen Yen, do you want to remarry me?" he suddenly asked. As he spoke, Yi Huanyan felt a force around her waist. He wrapped his arms around her waist and lifted her to his chest. She smelled the fragrance of the red wine and the faint smell of tobacco on his body. It was intoxicating. Yi Huanyan frowned. Her voice was a little soft. "There shouldn't be any difference whether we get married or not, right? I can give you a grand wedding. It's 100 times, 1,000 times grander. All my relatives and friends will acknowledge your existence. Is that okay?" "Actually, there's no need for that. Ling Han, we're doing very well right now." Yi Huanyan lowered her eyes. She was worried. Actually, to her, marriage wasn't just about her. She also had to consider Naneo. Chapter 402. Late at night, after a night of entanglement, she finally fainted from exhaustion. Ling Han caressed her cheek and brushed her hair behind her back. He looked at this face that was very different from before. It was beautiful, but he could only see a hint of docility when her eyes were closed. A hint of sadness flashed across his eyes. Thinking back to those years, he had done too little for her and hurt her too much. Gu Xinyan's warning echoed in his ears, and the reality of it tore his heart apart. He had once felt that she and her mother owed him. Jiang Milan had ruined Wen Qingwan, his family, and the person who loved him the most in this world. Before he could find the culprit to collect his debt, he found that the culprit had already gone deep into the ground and turned into a pile of dust. So he naturally thought that his mother's debt would be repaid by her daughter. Naturally, he was paranoid and blamed all the fault on Yi Huanyan. But later on, he gradually realized that she did not know about those things. Later on, he found out that she was not even Jiang Milan's daughter. So 5 years ago, he was full of resentment and revenge, but now it seemed like a joke. He felt guilty. And when he wanted to make up for it, he found that he could do nothing. She was reborn. She had an illustrious family background. She had parents and brothers who doted on her. She had a group of friends. Her career was thriving, and she even had a child. She did not need him. Or rather, she only needed him occasionally. It was a biological need. No one in this world was more qualified than her to say that she did not need to get married. Marriage was a shackle and a burden to her. She was used to a life of freedom, so why bother? And there was not much he could do. So since there was something in front of him that he could do, how could he not do it? At least it could exchange for a little peace of mind. His hand brushed across the smooth lines of her back, causing her to tremble. She slowly opened her eyes and muttered, "Okay, I don't want to. I'm sleepy." He originally didn't have this intention, but after being disturbed by her obedient and coquettish tone, he immediately felt the strangeness in his body. He flipped over, lifted her up by the waist, and bent down to enter her. Yi Huanyan was attacked in her sleep. She couldn't help but groan in pain. She waved her hand behind her in dissatisfaction. "Don't." The alcohol hadn't passed yet, so her words were still coquettish. There was a sense of laziness and drowsiness. That slap didn't land on Ling Han's restless hands, but on her own perky buttocks instead, causing her to cry out in alarm. Like a frightened little beast, a certain part of her body shrunk. Ling Han let out a muffled groan from being squeezed. He almost couldn't help but end it early. She was perked up high, and there were fingerprints on her buttocks, which gradually turned pink. His eyes also gradually turned red with the pink luster, and he couldn't help but speed up his movements. The big bed creaked as it moved. Ah. Yi Huanyan propped her arms on the pillow, feeling the high frequency of friction behind her. She let out a mesmerizing and hoarse moan with his movements. Ling Han sped up while calling her name. His voice was hoarse and seductive. Yen Yen. Yen Yen. Yi Huanyan was drunk and sleepy. She let him torment her, rubbing and pinching her. Her mind was clear for a moment, then in a daze. After a night of indulgence, it was already dawn when she woke up, and there was no one beside her. Her smooth and fair arms reached out from under the blanket to feel for the phone at the bedside. She lazily glanced at the time, then in the next second, she rolled out of bed. Damn it! Yi Huanyan got up and washed up as quickly as possible, then rushed to the wedding venue. The hotel was booked very close to the church in the suburbs for the convenience of traveling to and from the wedding. According to the wedding procedures, the bride and groom would go directly to the airport for their honeymoon after the wedding and would not return to the hotel. Therefore, Yi Huanyan felt that she really deserved to die for oversleeping today. On the way, she thought about how she had accidentally run to Ling Han's door last night, and her face turned red. In the church, Ling Han did not take this wedding seriously, so there were only a few symbolic relatives and friends here, but there were ridiculously many people on Gu Duo's side. Except for the members of the Gu family who were not present, her cousins from the main family filled the church. In the dressing room, Gu Duo's biological mother, Wan Lan, was directing a few stylists to tidy up her wedding dress. Her eyes were red. "Why are you crying? It's a good day." The one who spoke next to her was Gu Duo's biological father, who was in his early 50s. He was wearing a well-ironed suit, but he kept frowning and looked very rigid and serious. "My daughter is getting married. Can't I be happy?" Wan Lan glanced at him and scolded with a sobbing voice. "If you didn't insist on sending the child to the Gu family, would it have been delayed for so many years? If you didn't find a good son-in-law, my daughter's life would have been ruined by you." Father Gu glared at her unhappily. "What do you know? If my daughter hadn't been in the Gu family all these years, do you think our family business would have been so successful? If we didn't have the Gu family as a backer, would the money I earn be enough to buy you a mess of jewelry and branded bags?" Wan Lan was yelled at by him and couldn't find any words to refute for a moment. She turned to look at her daughter. Duo, don't listen to your father's nonsense. No one cares about you more than I do. I sent you away in the first place because I wanted you to have a better environment. Okay, stop pretending." Gu Duo had been listening to them quarreling, nagging, and even shirking their responsibilities for so long that she was numb. As parents, they didn't act like parents. What kind of daughter did they expect their daughter to be? Thinking of this, she sneered. "Go out. I want to be alone. When the time comes, I'll go out by myself." When the couple heard their daughter speak in such a cold tone, they were stunned, especially Wan Lan. Her eyes showed some resentment and she quickly pulled her husband, who was about to lose his temper, out of the room. After they left, Gu Duo stood up and asked the stylists in the dressing room to leave as well. Then, she walked to the window alone, her eyes clear. Among these people, was there really someone who wished her well? The corners of her mouth curved into a smile, and she was very self-deprecating. It was almost time. Someone knocked on the door outside. "Miss Gu, it's time to enter the venue. The ceremony is about to begin." Her snow-white dress fell down the spiral staircase step by step. She held her father's arm and walked step by step to the tune of the wedding march towards her groom. To her, this used to be something very worth looking forward to. When she was young, she thought that what she looked forward to was a wedding. Later, when she really experienced a wedding, she realized that what she looked forward to was actually the person standing in the middle of the red carpet, waiting for her. It was not the person 5 years ago, nor was it the person now. Chapter 403. I'll leave my daughter to you. Treat her well or else. All right, let's go. His hasty exhortation was interrupted by Gu Duo's glare and impatient words. She held Ling Han's arm and walked towards the end of the red carpet, in the direction of the pastor. Ling Han couldn't help but frown when he thought of the father and daughter's attitude just now. Yi Huanyan doesn't really care about you. No one came. Gu Duo's voice came from beside him, sounding a little irritated. Ling Han suddenly had a thought in his mind. He originally guessed that Gu Duo wanted a perfect wedding, but at this moment, he felt that no one was more anxious than her to ruin this wedding. No one came. This wasn't directed at Yi Huanyan. To put it bluntly, Yi Huanyan was a shield. She really hoped that Gu Xinian would come. Ling Han curled his lips. I don't know if Gu Xinian will come, but Yen Yen won't be coming today. Gu Duo frowned and said in a low voice, That's impossible. She drank too much last night. She probably hasn't woken up yet. You're anxious. Ling Han suddenly grabbed her hand and forced her to follow him in front of the pastor. From the beginning, Gu Duo didn't expect this wedding to go smoothly. She expected that someone would come to ruin it. Whether it was Yi Huanyan for Ling Han, Gu Xinian for his sister's lifelong happiness, or even Ji Xiaoye for her best friend, someone would come. But at this moment, it was already the vows, and the entrance of the church was still quiet. Inside the church, it was solemn. The pastor's voice echoed in the church. His fluent English and gentle tone added a sense of solemnity. Mr. Ling Han, are you willing to marry Miss Gu Duo, regardless of life and death, poverty and wealth? I'm willing. There was no hesitation in his answer. His answer was straightforward, but there was no emotion in it. After he answered, he clearly saw Gu Duo's eyebrows tremble. Miss Gu Duo, may I ask? After the priest finished asking, all eyes fell on Gu Duo. I. Ling Han's eyes were filled with anticipation. He guessed that Gu Duo would ruin the wedding even if no one was present. But at that moment, her eyes were filled with hatred. She gritted her teeth and said, I'm willing. This answer made Ling Han frown. The priest was still giving a lengthy monologue. Gu Duo and Ling Han looked at each other coldly, as if they were laughing at him and at themselves. Look, on a day like today, none of the people we were looking forward to showed up. It seems that I'm a little late? A clear female voice sounded from the entrance of the church. A tall figure walked in against the light. Her expression was calm and cold. She was wearing a dark green dress with a belt around her waist. Her figure was slender and slender. Why are you here? With Gu Duo's obvious voice, everyone looked at the door. Her long chestnut brown hair draped over her shoulders. She walked on the red carpet step by step, but she only stood in the center and did not take a step forward. There was a hint of mockery in her voice. Why? Are you looking forward to someone else coming to ruin your ridiculous wedding? You can't hold it in anymore and want to expose your intentions for a certain someone to see? From Ling Han's point of view, he could clearly see a faint light in Gu Duo's eyes. He asked you to come, didn't he? Where is he? It was self-evident who this he referred to. Fu Yingxiong sneered. He went back to the Four Seasons villa last night. Oh right, he left with his fiancée. Gu Duo's eyes were sluggish. The light that she had been looking forward to disappeared. She muttered, Impossible. What's impossible about it? Do you think this is 5 years ago? Do you think he will tolerate a woman like you again and again? Don't forget that you have nothing to do with him. They were not lovers, nor were they siblings. Fu Yingxiong's every word hit Gu Duo where it hurt the most. However, her face was calm and collected, giving people a sense of compassion from a god's perspective. Gu Duo's face was pale. She suddenly stumbled toward Fu Yingxiong and screamed, Impossible, impossible, impossible. Fu Yingxiong frowned. She turned her body slightly and snatched away the hands that were reaching out to strangle her neck. She staggered and fell to the ground. Her veil scattered and the crystal clips fell to the ground. The whole venue was in an uproar. Gu Duo's mother was the first to rush up and support her daughter. She screamed at Fu Yingxiong, Who are you? Are you deliberately causing trouble? Is there no one to care? Where's the security? Gu Duo did not appreciate it. She flipped her mother off the stage. Ignoring her cries of pain, she grabbed Fu Yingxiong's skirt tightly. I don't believe what you said. He wasn't afraid that if I really married Ling Han, his biological sister would not be happy in this life, and his most precious nephew would not have a father in this life? A figure on the stage swayed. Nephew? Father. He quickly came back to his senses and walked over quickly. He picked up Gu Duo from the ground and growled, "What did you say? Who did you say Naneo's father is?" Ha 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 ha. Gu Duo's shoulders were held tightly by Ling Han. She let out a maniacal laugh, which became more and more shrill. Ha ha ha, you still don't know? Ha ha ha. Fu Wingxiong looked at Ling Han, whose eyes were red. She frowned and pulled him up. I'll take care of things here. You go and look for Yen Yen. Ling Han came back to his senses and looked at her suspiciously. Fu Wingxiong raised her eyebrows. You don't believe me? How could she not believe it? Even if Yi Huanyan and Gu Xinian were present, they might not be able to do such a thing. The scene was already in chaos. Gu Duo's parents originally wanted to come up and ask about the situation, but they were all restrained by Fu Wingxiong's people. Later, for some unknown reason, the two of them started to fight below the stage. One tried to stop the fight, and the other tried to stir up trouble. The scene was chaotic. Seeing this scene, Ling Han made up his mind. He took off the white bridegroom's brooch on his collar, got up and ran out of the door. In this chaos, Fu Wingxiong was like a lotus flower that grew out of the mud. She calmly squatted in front of Gu Duo and looked at her condescendingly. I know what you're thinking. Just like 5 years ago, you're waiting for him to come and take you away from the wedding, right? This time, you're much more prepared than last time. You know that the ashes are no threat to him now, so you want to use Ling Han? He can't not come. Then look at what this is. Fu Wingxiong raised her mobile phone, and a photo came into Gu Duo's eyes. It was a photo of Ji Xiaoye and Gu Xinian at the airport yesterday evening. The caption read, "Two people on a trip around the world. There was a small problem on the way, but now we're on the road again. Mauritius, we're coming." Gu Duo had never seen Gu Xinian smile so gently. He put his arm around the woman's shoulder and showed a sincere and satisfied smile. No. After a scream, Gu Duo broke down and grabbed the phone, smashing it in the distance. Chapter 404. Fu Wingxiong wasn't angry that her phone was smashed into pieces. She just frowned and continued to stare coldly at Gu Duo in front of her. She got up from the ground as if she was possessed and staggered to the position where the vows were supposed to be. After looking around, she grabbed her distant cousin who was supposed to be her bridesmaid and asked, "Where's the box?" The girl was obviously frightened and pointed to the ground with a trembling finger. In the chaos, everything was knocked over. Fortunately, what Gu Duo wanted was obvious. It was a rectangular suede box. She didn't care about the cumbersome layers of the wedding dress. She squatted down to pick up the box and hugged it in her arms. Her eyes were full of panic. "Where's the phone? Where's the phone?" She touched the wedding dress in her hand and suddenly looked up at the bridesmaid in front of her. Her eyes were red as she shouted, "Give me the phone." The girl was frightened and took out her phone with trembling hands. Before she could hand it to her, it was snatched away. Gu Duo climbed onto the stage and dialed a familiar number. "What are you doing?" Fu Wingxiong approached step by step. "Stand there and don't move. I'm going to call him," Gu Duo suddenly shouted and stopped Fu Wingxiong in her tracks. Her eyes were filled with certainty. "He'll definitely come. He loves Suka so much. How can he bear to let that child die without a complete corpse?" Fu Wingxiong looked at the rectangular box in her hand and said faintly, "For so many years, you thought that holding that child's ashes in your hand was equivalent to holding his life. You used it on me 9 years ago and you succeeded. You thought it was omnipotent. Have you never thought that he would actually fall in love with someone else in this life?" At this time, Fu Wingxiong's people had already cleared all the guests out. The church, which had been bustling with noise a second ago, was now as quiet as a dilapidated castle from the last century. It was eerie and eerie. Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable. The busy tone was faint, very appropriate for the occasion. After a series of violent smashing sounds, both the phone and the box were smashed to pieces. The figure in the white dress let out a heart-wrenching cry that reverberated throughout the church. Ah! Fu Yingxiong was suddenly moved. She admitted that she had loved Gu Xinian for many years. Her whole heart was tied to him, and she could never forget him. However, when it came to love someone so deeply and madly, even Su Kabak then couldn't compare to this woman in front of him. She risked universal condemnation. She loved by hook or by crook. Her love made people feel fear. But it was undeniable that she loved like a moth to a flame. Actually, even if he comes today, what can you do? Fu Yingxiong's voice relaxed. Her eyes full of pity fell on Gu Duo. Gu Duo fell to the ground. Her eyes were a little hollow. After a long time, she stood up and walked towards the door. In a trance, Fu Yingxiong seemed to hear her say, "I just want to find the feeling from 5 years ago and remember it." "Where are you going?" She caught up with her 2 steps. This time, she heard what she said clearly. The woman in the white wedding dress stared blankly in the direction of the door. Suddenly, there was a light in her eyes. "He's here." Fu Yingxiong frowned and raised her head to look at the door. It was empty. Yi Huanyan ran to the church door, panting, but saw that the church door was closed. "Damn!" she gasped for breath. Her eyes dimmed a little. Or was she too late? The phone that she had been holding tightly all the way rang. Looking at the caller ID, Yi Huanyan felt a surge of anger in her heart. "I called you for half an hour. Why didn't you pick up? Did you forget all the things I asked you to do?" The voice on the other end of the phone trembled. "Sister Yan Yan, I had hot pot last night and had diarrhea the whole night. I can't even stand up." "Didn't you go to eat with Su Nianhua last night?" "Yes, he found a restaurant. He told me that he had been here before and insisted on eating at that restaurant. I think he's exhausted from the diarrhea now." The person on the other end of the phone suddenly realized something. "Damn, isn't it that person's wedding today? How is it? Damn, my brain." Yi Huanyan looked up at the closed church door and said in a depressed tone, "Forget it, he's probably on the plane. I'll call him when he gets off." Before Gu Xinian left, he told her that he would no longer be controlled by others because of that child. 9 years of repentance might not be enough to clear his guilt towards Su Ku, but he understood that even so, he couldn't let down another woman who loved him. So last night, Yi Huanyan originally wanted to talk to Ling Han about this matter, but she ended up talking nonsense and drinking, so she didn't mention a word about it. In the hotel suite, after frantically ringing the doorbell, the door opened a crack, revealing a pale face. Chan Yin stared blankly at the tall figure at the door. "You?" She couldn't say anything for a long time. "The wedding is cancelled. I'm looking for Yan Yan." His simple words made Chen Yin, who couldn't stand up straight after the whole night, give him a thumbs up. She didn't say anything else. Suddenly, her stomach turned. She hurriedly fled with a pale face and said, "Do as you wish. I have something to do, so I won't accompany you." After that, she bent her waist and dashed into the bathroom of her bedroom like a gust of wind, leaving behind 2 memorable words, F***CK. Ling Han was about to enter the room when a childish voice sounded. "Auntie Xiaowu, you're so noisy." He closed the door and stood behind it. His eyes met with the small figure in pink pajamas in front of the master bedroom door, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little strange. Naneo saw that his gaze was strange, so he frowned and crossed his arms like an adult. "Why are you looking at me like that?" This question made Ling Han feel resentful. He pointed at the sofa guiltily and asked tentatively, Can I wait here for your mother to come back?" Naneo stared at him for a few seconds as if he had seen a ghost, then shrugged. "Up to you. In the past, he was always so arrogant. What was wrong with him today?" After saying this, Naneo walked to the dining table in the small living room and climbed up the chair with ease. He then reached out and pressed half of his body on the table to reach the kettle in the middle of the table to pour tea. A large hand scooped up the kettle and poured a cup of water in front of him. Do you want to drink water? Nanao looked at the cup in front of him, then looked up at the man holding the kettle across the table. His expression was very unnatural. He frowned and said, "Didn't you pour it all out?" Nanao thought to himself. According to the previous few interactions, this man would definitely be at loggerheads with him. However, at this moment, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He was actually looking at him with a smile. That smile gave him goosebumps, and the hand holding the glass of water trembled. "What are you doing?" He finally couldn't take it anymore. He put down the cup heavily and stared coldly at Ling Han, his pink little face full of vigilance. Chapter 405. Ling Han didn't know that Nanao had a bad temper when he woke up. More importantly, he didn't sleep well last night. Chen Yin had diarrhea all night. Even though she consciously slept in the bedroom next door, the sound of flushing from time to time was like thunder in the middle of the night. Every time Nanao was about to fall asleep, there would be a rumbling sound coming from next door. The continuous flow of water seemed to be pressing down on his brain, making him irritable all night. At this moment, Ling Han's strange appearance in front of him was like hitting the muzzle of a gun. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Nanao glared at him, his attitude very unfriendly. Ling Han had experienced his son's temper several times, so he wasn't too surprised by his temper. He thought about how he didn't have a father all these years and might have been bullied by others, so he didn't care about his attitude at all. "I didn't realize before, but you look very much like me." "Who looks like you?" Nanao frowned, his face full of displeasure. "Kid, did I not ask you before who your father is?" Several times, he only asked his date of birth and repeatedly guessed in his heart, but he didn't formally ask him about his father. His intelligence exceeded that of children of his age, so he definitely knew more things than other children, so it might be right to ask some questions straightforwardly. "Who's the kid?" Nanao looked at him with dissatisfaction. "You're so annoying. No wonder my mommy doesn't want to remarry you." "Remarry?" Ling Han looked at him with a complicated expression. "You know who I am?" Nanao returned his look of contempt. "Weren't you just trying to ask me who my father is?" Ling Han was delighted, and his eyes revealed some light. "You know me, Yen Yen told you." "What else did she say?" "You. Is it worth being so happy?" Nanao shifted his gaze 2 inches away and muttered, "To me, you're not even as important as Auntie Xiaowu, whom I've just met. What's there to be proud of?" The feeling of being choked by a 5-year-old child, especially his own son, should have made him so angry that he vomited blood. However, Ling Han had always been an unconventional person. At this moment, this little boy who was looking at him with contempt made him feel an inexplicable sense of pride. His mind was filled with the words, "My son is so smart, so sharp with his words. He even knows how to use the word presence at such a young age." A morbid sense of pride. Nanao looked at him with disdain and muttered, "Are you done yet?" Ling Han realized that his attitude was not normal, so he came back to his senses. He looked at the child in front of him and said, "I didn't take care of you and your mother in the past. I will make it up to you in the future. What's the use of saying this to me? You'd better think of a way to deal with my mommy." Ling Han's expression became more and more serious. "I don't just want your mommy to give me another chance, I also want you to give me another chance." He looked so sincere and pious that Now was at a loss for what to do. The genius young man boasted of his superior IQ, but the people around him still treated him like a child. The only one who really talked to him seriously was his uncle, but his uncle was usually very busy and didn't care about him. "If you have the chance, go find my mommy." "It has nothing to do with me." As he spoke, he jumped onto the floor and fled into the house. He even locked the door behind him. His actions were done in one smooth motion. Looking at the tightly shut door, Ling Han withdrew his solemn gaze, but still sighed. He didn't know why, but when facing this son of his, he always felt powerless and a little guilty. This kind of guilt was very strange. When Ling Dongming was still alive, he didn't feel guilty when he saw him. Why did he feel guilty when he saw his own son? He pulled out a chair and poured himself a glass of water. He silently digested everything that had happened since Yi Huanyan came back. In the beginning, everything had happened so suddenly and messily that he couldn't make heads or tails of it. He didn't even know if Gu Huanyan was Yi Huanyan. Later on, he figured it out, but Gu Duo came out of nowhere and messed things up. Because she had a son who was 4 or 5 years old, he began to worry that she might have a new lover. Half of the reason he held a wedding with Gu Duo was to help Gu Xinian carry things, and the other half was to give up on himself. Thinking of this, he raised his hand and patted his forehead. His face paled a little. If he had known that Yi Huanyan was still waiting for him for 5 years and that the child was also his, he would never have agreed to hold a wedding with another woman. Not to mention holding a wedding, he wouldn't show any trace of ambiguity to Yi Huanyan. He didn't care if Gu Xinian had something on other people. It had nothing to do with them. He should clean up the mess he made himself. Why did he have to harm his own sister? This was a mess. Before he could sort out his thoughts, he heard the beeping sound of a card swiping the door open. Yi Huanyan dragged herself back, depressed. There was no one in the living room, and there was a strange sound coming from the bathroom of the guest bedroom. It was obvious that Chen Yin was still exhausted. "Xiao Wu, are you okay? Do you want me to buy some medicine for you?" She knocked on the door of the guest bedroom. A painful voice came from inside. "I've taken it. It hasn't worked yet. Don't worry about me, okay?" She went to the door of the master bedroom and turned the handle directly, only to find that it was locked from the inside. "Naneo, why did you lock the door?" A weak voice came from inside. "Mommy, I'm so sleepy. I want to sleep." "All right." Yi Huanyan's entire shoulders collapsed. She turned around and walked towards the sofa, pinching her eyebrows. Now she couldn't even find someone to talk to? Her head was still throbbing from the hangover. Last night, her ex-husband, who was inseparable from her, went on a honeymoon with her cheap sister. After resting at noon, she had to rush to the church in the evening to shoot the last concluding scene. How could this scene be described as just miserable? After sitting on the sofa for a while, she only felt sleepy. Without any hesitation, she walked towards the other guest bedroom directly opposite the master bedroom. Fortunately, she had booked a suite with 3 bedrooms. Otherwise, she could only sleep on the sofa. Ta pulled her slippers and opened the door. The room was dark. She frowned and touched the wall to turn on the light. A black shadow flashed by, and she cried out in alarm. Before she could raise her voice, the person pressed her against the door, sealed her lips, and kissed her deeply for more than 20 seconds. She struggled frantically, but that person ignored her and pinned her firmly behind the door. He leaned over and kissed her lips, refusing to let go. She gradually sensed the identity of this person from the familiar smell around her. Her eyes widened all of a sudden. How was it possible? Yi Huanyan's mind went blank and exploded. Wasn't he supposed to be on the honeymoon plane? "Oh, why are you, here? I love you, Yen Yen." The sudden confession made her body, which was already hot, completely burn up. Her mind was still in a daze, but her body was already carried by him. Chapter 406. In the darkness, no one could see each other's faces clearly, just like that night in Florida a few months ago. The soft bed, the familiar body, the whispered words of love. He was venting all of his longing and love, drowning her like a tidal wave. She begged for mercy again and again, enjoying the pleasure of her lower body while enduring the pain of her waist being hit. She had to pinch his arm and complain incessantly. "What the hell? What's wrong with you?" But he had no intention of stopping, nor did he have the slightest intention of explaining. Yi Huanyan only felt that her waist and abdomen were numb. Her whole body was like a folding chair. She had been in the position of being folded for too long and was about to lose consciousness. At the moment, she couldn't care about her face and shouted, "Han! Spare me! I can't take it anymore. This Han made Ling Han's movements slow down, but a certain place where their bodies were intertwined still maintained a close connection. It was like being cut into pieces, rubbing little by little, but it was even more deadly. Yi Huanyan's 10 toes were all curled up. She looked at the man who tortured her in front of her with a face like a peach blossom. She gasped for a long time and barely exhaled. If you want to kill or cut, just give me a quick death. A dangerous voice came from above, pausing after each word. Is Naneo my son? Her eyes were sluggish. Although she knew that Ling Han couldn't see her face at the moment, her head couldn't help but move 2 inches to the side of the pillow, trying to avoid face-to-face contact. In this matter, she was indeed guilty. After all, he had the right to know. She didn't speak, only feeling a fine friction coming from inside her body. At first, she thought that he was going to withdraw, but before he could go out, he pushed in again. When he brushed past a certain sensitive spot, she couldn't help but let out a broken sound, waiting for the habitual pleasure. But unexpectedly, he stopped again. He patiently rubbed her bit by bit, deliberately not giving her satisfaction. Whether it was physically or mentally, at this moment, she felt like thousands of ants were crawling over her, numb and itchy. She gritted her teeth and trembled as she grasped the bed sheets under her body. Her voice was broken. Yes, 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 it's your son. Ah, be gentle. It hurts. His movements became gentle again. He picked her up from the pillow and put his hands around her waist, sharing each other's breaths at a close distance. His voice was low, his breath hot. All these years, are you still waiting for me? Yi Huanyan lay on his shoulder, panting. The heat from her lower body was still in her body. This sitting position was very deep, and his twitching from time to time made her unable to stop. At this moment, there was no time to think about other things. She made up her mind and confessed everything. His sudden appearance seemed to have picked up her heart that had sunk to the bottom of the valley and hung it up in the sky with a full moon. Her heart was wild with joy. Even though she was drowned by his passion and covered by the darkness of the room, only she knew how fast the heart under her chest was beating. Chen Yin bit her hand and squatted in the toilet for a long time. The medicine she took finally took effect. When she came out of the bathroom with trembling legs, she didn't see the person who was supposed to be in the room. She touched her hair and looked at the empty living room with a puzzled expression. She clearly remembered that Sister Yen Yen was back. Didn't Ling Han come before? A strange sound came from the guest bedroom opposite. She was stunned. Just as she was about to go over, the door of the master bedroom suddenly opened, attracting her attention. I'm hungry. Naneo was wearing pink pajamas and tugged at the corner of her clothes. Then I'll call you to order food. She was about to call room service when she said that. Naneo was still tugging at her clothes and said seriously, Let's go downstairs to eat. The food is cold when they send it up. What's cold? It's almost 30 degrees outside today. Chen Yin didn't care and dragged him to the landline in the living room. Las Vegas was so hot that it was exploding. Why would they send cold food in such a small place? The hotel's air conditioning is cold. A faint voice came from behind. Seeing that he was so persistent, Chen Yin had to do as he said, but she couldn't help but frown. What's wrong with you today? You usually cry and beg when I ask you to go out. You're so cooped up that you're moldy. Today you want to go out by yourself. What's that sound? Chen Yin raised her head and looked at the opposite room in confusion. Let's go. I'm hungry. Naneo held her hand and almost ran out of the room, closing the door behind him. Hey, ancestor, I didn't bring the room card. Get someone to open the door after dinner. I didn't bring my wallet. In the evening, in a suburban church, Ling Han and Yi Huanyan appeared at the same time, which shocked the crew. After all, the news of Ling Han's wedding today was still very clear to them, especially the staff who happened to be filming here. The chaos in the church in the morning obviously hadn't spread. Everyone took it for granted that Ling Han should be on his way to his honeymoon. Of course, there were still people in the crew who were calm, such as Guan Nai and Su Nianhua. When Yi Huanyan appeared holding Ling Han's arm, Guan Nai only glanced at them and reached out to Shang Anren. 1,000 yuan, I win. Shang Anren took a deep breath and reached for his wallet. He took out a stack of bills, counted them, and handed them to Guan Nai. What are you doing? Yi Huanyan looked confused. Nothing. Su Nianhua curled his lips and glanced at Shang Anren. Someone's evil intentions are not dead yet. As soon as he heard this, Shang Anren jumped up from his chair. Don't pour dirty water on me. That's one thing. It's just a bet. What? Yi Huanyan looked at them in confusion. Shang Anren stood up straight. When he saw Ling Han, his eyes narrowed a little. He calmed himself down and raised 3 fingers, looking like he was going to swear. You said that we'll write off what happened in the past, so I'll take it that you're sincere. They made a bet last night at dinner and I just said something casually. I didn't mean any harm, so don't get me wrong. Yi Huanyan was even more confused when he saw how serious he was. What bet? Guan Nai fanned herself leisurely with a handful of bright red banknotes in her hand. She looked at Ling Han with a meaningful gaze. What else could it be? We're betting that you won't rob the wedding today. Rob the wedding? Yi Huanyan's face froze. Guan Nai continued. You changed hotels in a hurry yesterday afternoon and stayed so close to here. Weren't you planning to rob the wedding? And now, everyone can see the situation. Since you've already robbed the wedding, there's no need to hide it. Although the plot is a little tacky and old-fashioned, it's fine as long as you have the wedding. Guan Nai had always been one to shock people to death with her words. This time, Yi Huanyan was at a loss for words. What the hell was going on? Chapter 407. The final scene of Remaining Life came to a perfect end at a church in the suburbs of Las Vegas. Yi Huanyan raised her hand and shouted into the intercom, Okay, this one passed. The final scene came to an end. In the camera, Guan Nai, dressed in a white veil, and Su Nianhua, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, were both smiling blissfully. When the entire crew was taking group photos after filming, Yi Huanyan was busy calling for everyone to gather and take photos, so the scene was a little chaotic. Su Nianhua saw Ling Han standing in the distance and hesitated for a few seconds before walking up to him. Why aren't you taking photos? Seeing Su Nianhua, Ling Han's gaze froze slightly. I'm not part of your crew, so there's no need for that. Since you're so formal, why did you come over? Ling Han glanced at him. There are too many men in the crew, so I'm afraid some of them won't give up. You're talking about me? Su Nianhua asked directly. All these years, my daughter is the same age as your son. Do you still think that I can't forget Yan Yan? Ling Han didn't say anything. Times had changed, and Yi Huanyan's return made the thorn in Su Nianhua's heart disappear. He only felt lucky that she could come back, because her return also gave him peace of mind, the kind of peace of mind that he could spend the rest of his life with Zheng Ro. Su Nianhua rubbed his forehead, looking a little tired. So many people think that I can't forget her. Sometimes it even makes me dazed, and I ask myself if I should be so devoted to her from the start. It's as if I have to pester her until the end for it to be the end. The hot wind brushed past him, and his clothes fluttered. Ling Han still didn't say anything. But I think you're all wrong. Just like how Yan Yan's brother used to love Su Ku, but now he's with Xiao Yu, Gu Xinian, and I have one thing in common, which is that we don't spend much time with the people we used to love, and we feel a lot of guilt. After so many years of chasing each other, we can't tell whether it's to make up for it or for love, or maybe it's both. I did love Yan Yan, but that was 15 or 16 years ago. For the next 10 years, I felt guilty, and for the next 5 or 6 years, I blamed myself. It has nothing to do with love, so you don't think too much about it. Ever since Yi Huanyan disappeared 5 years ago, Ling Han and Su Nianhua had always been at odds in the company. In the past few years, his career had been on the decline, and he wasn't easy to get along with. He had caused a lot of trouble for pleasure, and even though Ling Han was cold and distant to him on the surface, he was still very tolerant of him in private. And it was all for Yi Huanyan's sake. So after all this, Su Nianhua realized that he had to return the favor he owed him for so many years. This reassuring pill had to be given to a paranoid person like him. Ling Han, however, had an indifferent expression. After a while, he said, "I'm not talking about you." Su Nianhua's heart skipped a beat. He followed his clear gaze and looked into the distance. Yi Huanyan was holding on to Yi Huanyan's arm for a selfie with the second male lead, Bai Ting. Bai Ting had been very popular recently and was known as the nation's school hunk. He didn't seem to have any scandals about him, so this intimate gesture was rare. Su Nianhua's face paled. No way. His explanation just now seemed like a joke, but Ling Han didn't want to give him a way out. He said casually, "I don't think you're a threat to me." Su Nianhua's face paled even more. He suddenly said indignantly, "Then how is he a threat?" Ling Han didn't even look at him. He spat out 2 words. "Young." Su Nianhua and Yi Huanyan were the same age, but Ling Han was 8 years older than them. He was 40 years old now, so he was a little jealous of others' youth. Su Nianhua's smile stiffened. Bai Ting had just graduated and was in his early 20s. Whether compared to Ling Han or him, he was young enough. "I was very young back then too." He pulled the corners of his mouth and tried to maintain his politeness. Ling Han seemed to have been reminded. He muttered to himself for a few seconds and suddenly relaxed. He smiled. "Yeah, then Yen Yen probably likes older guys." "What?" Su Nianhua's face turned pale. He felt that he had nothing better to do than to come and comfort Ling Han. He was definitely out of his mind. "Hey, Brother Hua, come and take a picture." The stage supervisor's voice called Su Nianhua over. Ling Han looked at Yi Huanyan, who was surrounded by people, with a smile in the corner of his eyes. "Still not giving up? I'm afraid you don't have the ability." The crew of Remaining Life officially wrapped up filming that day under Ling Han's watch. After that, the crew returned to China and started non-stop post-production editing in order to be released as a New Year's movie. The post-production editing work only required Yi Huanyan to take a look occasionally, so she had a lot of free time. "Hey, didn't all your relatives come to the wedding? How did they deal with it?" Ling Han narrowed his eyes and tilted his head from the spacious plane seat to look at the woman leaning on his shoulder. He said in a very casual tone, "Who told you they were my relatives? Who did you see?" Among Ling Han's relatives, Yi Huanyan was familiar with some of them. Ling Dongyu's family was the only one she could remember by name. She had seen his grandfather's relatives a few times, but she couldn't remember their names. But the meaning behind his words couldn't help but surprise Yi Huanyan. "Didn't you send out the invitations? Do we need real relatives for a fake wedding?" The corners of Ling Han's mouth curled up, revealing a sly smile. From the beginning, he didn't take this wedding seriously, so regarding the invitation, the only person who actually received it was Secretary Dong. She even ran around to help him find Asian extras in Las Vegas to make up the numbers. Yi Huanyan only had 2 words for Ling Han's behavior: "Sly old fox." "If I didn't do this, my relatives and friends would attend this wedding and then our wedding soon after. It doesn't matter if most people are too lazy to explain, but I have to explain to my grandparents and second uncle's family. I'm not afraid of the trouble, but I'm afraid you'll find it troublesome." His voice lingered in her ears. She had just drunk a glass of orange juice from the stewardess, so even her breath was filled with the fresh scent of oranges. Naneo's attitude towards Ling Han was much better. When they boarded the plane, she was hugged by him. Although she looked awkward, she didn't resist. This made Ling Han happy for a while. After that, he started to talk more. In contrast, Yi Huanyan felt like she had switched personalities with him. She was a little less talkative. "What's wrong?" Noticing her silence, Ling Han stopped talking and looked at her in confusion. Yi Huanyan said calmly, "Nothing. I just feel like you're more talkative today than usual." Ling Han's smile faded a little. He asked softly, "Was I very quiet in the past?" "Not really. The year I first came home, and after that." Yi Huanyan suddenly stopped talking. The two of them fell silent as if they had agreed to it. Ling Han was actually not a particularly quiet person. He grew up overseas and was deeply influenced by Western capitalism. When he first came back to China, he was actually a sunny and humorous person. Chapter 408. When Jiang Meilan and her mother first came to the Ling family, Ling Han did not treat them well. After all, Wan Qingwan had just passed away for less than half a year. Ling Dongming suddenly brought in a pair of mother and daughter, and did not even inform him beforehand. This made him somewhat uncomfortable. So that year, he did not return home much and lived alone outside. If it wasn't for the fact that the old madam wanted to see him during the new year, with his personality, he probably did not intend to have any interaction with Yi Huanyan and the others. That year, in Yi Huanyan's eyes, he was a taciturn person and an ice-cold older brother who was not easy to get along with. And after 8 years of companionship, his original bright and charming characteristics were exposed bit by bit. In those 8 years, he was her omnipotent big brother Ling Han. After that, Ling Dongming and Jiang Meilan passed away in a car accident, and he accidentally found Wan Qingwan's diary. Such a big mess was directly placed on his head. Before he could find any way to vent, Yi Huanyan bumped into him and climbed into his bed without a care in the world, shouting that she wanted to marry him. How much he loved her before, how much he hated her after that, and how much he regretted it after that. Ling Han did not dare to think about how much damage these cruel times had brought her. When he thought about the details of the past, he felt that he was not worthy of her anymore. You used to talk a lot in the past, but it was also in those 2 years that you became less talkative. Ling Han continued, but there was bitterness in his voice. Yen, I'm sorry. The person in his arms stiffened. After a while, there was a nasal laugh. You might have to keep those 3 words. It's a little early to say it now. It's not too late to say it when we get there. Not long after that, Yi Huanyan felt a heavy force on her shoulder, followed by a low voice. This time, they were going to the Four Seasons Manor. Yi Huanyan had just brought the film crew back to China for half a month. She had just finished explaining the editing process when she received news from her parents at the villa. Gu Hang had personally called her and wanted her to bring Ling Han back. At the same time, Wan Yi's dissatisfied grumbling could be heard from the other end of the phone. Why did you bring him back? He dirted my house for no reason. I will beat that kind of person up every time I see him. Wan Yi didn't like Ling Han. She didn't hide this fact. She mumbled to Gu Ling, I'll see how it goes. I'll ask him if he's free. As soon as he said this, Wan Yi became even more noisy, probably because the other end was on speaker. What is he busy with? What can a small company be busy with? If he wants to be my son-in-law, let him show some sincerity. Busy my ass. All right, his company isn't small. On the other end of the phone, Gu Ling was comforting her. She could hear the helplessness in her voice. Yen, regardless of whether he's busy or not, bring him here. Your brother will be back in 2 days. We can have a meal together as a family. Aha, okay. Yi Huanyan had no choice but to agree. Before she hung up the phone, she heard Wan Yi shouting at the top of her lungs, What family? Old Gu, you're getting more and more ridiculous with your words. Is that bastard our family? After she hung up the phone, Yi Huanyan sighed faintly. Her family didn't like Ling Han so much because she looked like a ghost when she came back. And Ling Han couldn't shirk too much of the responsibility for that. She had originally planned to consider this matter after the movie was completed, but she hadn't expected Gu Hang to call her directly. And from Wan Yi's words, even if she didn't like Ling Han, since he had the intention of reconciling with her daughter, she couldn't hide it from them. She had to go through them first. After they got off the plane, the Gu family arranged for a car to pick them up and take them to the dock. The Four Seasons villa was on the island, so it was considered private property. Without the Gu family's cruise ship, it was basically impossible to get there. When Ling Han first came here, he waited bitterly for a week in Los Angeles. Thinking about it, that was a few months ago. Before entering the villa, Yi Huanyan gave Ling Han a heads up. My mom has a short temper. My brother said that it's all because my dad spoiled her. You have to go along with her later. No matter what bad things she says about you, don't go against her. Ling Han smiled bitterly. Do I look like I have that kind of confidence? But you don't have to go along with her too much. You should avoid her when you need to. My mom is the vice president of the Pistol Association. She's the president. Naneo, who was holding Yi Huanyan's hand, corrected her. Grandma told me about it in a video call last night. She's been a full-time employee for a long time. It's okay. Even if she really shoots me twice, I won't dodge. Hearing this, Yi Huanyan's eyes trembled slightly. Along the way, she deliberately said a lot of things about how her parents were difficult to get along with. In fact, she just wanted to scare Ling Han and play a joke on him. She didn't expect him to be like this, so she didn't know what to say. Naneo curled the corners of her mouth and revealed a disdainful smile. Are you stupid? You didn't even dodge when you were hit. Grandpa definitely doesn't like you. Ling Han's eyes froze, and she stuttered. Is that so? It was quite difficult to please everyone in the Gu family. For example, Yi Huanyan's biological brother, Gu Xinian, had a lot of hostility toward Ling Han. If she wanted to please him, she could only rely on Ji Xiaoye. Fortunately, Ji Xiaoye was his former employee, and he took good care of her. He had also helped her a lot in her work over the years, so he would reluctantly give her face. Besides, Yi Huanyan's biological mother, Wan Yi, was the only daughter of a world-class jewelry master and the only successor. It was not the first time she heard that she had a strange temper. This was related to her early experience of wandering around the world with her father in her early years. She had a very shrewd eye for people and was very difficult to deal with. Her father, Gu Hang, was now the behind-the-scenes leader of the Gu Financial Group. Although the entire financial group had been handed over to Gu Xinian, his two titles of Wall Street Financial Tycoon and Stock God were not just for show. Ling Han's impression of him stopped at the framed old newspapers of famous people in the world. One of them was already yellowed. At that time, it was still a black and white photo. In the photo, Gu Hang was gentle and elegant. This newspaper was an interview from the New York Times more than 30 years ago. It was also the only public information about Gu Hang. At the entrance of the villa, 6 different models of cars were parked in a threatening manner. In front of the car closest to Yi Huanyan and the others, 8 assistants wearing white gloves and suits stood in 2 rows in front of the car door. They were all dressed in the same uniform and looked very majestic. They had the posture of a gang. The leaders were the siblings, Gu Lu and Gu Min. When they saw Yi Huanyan, they bowed respectfully at 90 degrees. Hello, 2nd Mississippi. Hello, young master. The people behind them also bowed in unison and shouted as if they had rehearsed, Hello, 2nd Mississippi. Hello, young master. This majestic array scared Yi Huanyan so much that her legs went weak. Gu Min was the closest to her and helped her up. 2nd Miss, are you okay? Are you seasick? Yi Huanyan glanced at her and thought to herself, I'm not seasick. I'm just seasick. What are these guys trying to do? You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.